Hello, everybody. Sorry, this is a bit late. Actually, is it a bit late? I scheduled it for 3. I seem to remember, but anyway, I think we made. I thought it was 3. Vincent thinks it's at 2. I guess there's some kind of time difference. He said it was 12. Sorry, 10 his time. Is it 10 Eastern time? Because, according to World Time Buddy, it is, I'm sorry, I'm the one who made the error. It is actually meant to be 10 a.m. Eastern Time is 3 p.m. Okay. Doesn't matter. Vincent is here. Hello, Vincent.
Hello.
Hello. I think that was a mix-up about time zones and things.
No. I contacted you early. I contacted you early. We're an hour early. I'm sorry. Or actually, we had daylight savings times here yesterday or the day before, so you might actually be thinking that it is 10 my time. It's 9 my time. We were supposed to start 10 my time. Time change yesterday, so we're starting.
Okay.
We're starting either on time that you thought, or an hour earlier than you thought, or maybe later. I'm not sure.
Okay, but it's an hour early for you anyway, because it's 9 a.m. your time.
Yes.
Okay, but anyway, I'm ready to go, and we can go.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm well. I've been keeping busy. I met Paul van der Clay yesterday. You probably haven't heard of him, but he's doing a kind of European tour.
You told me about Paul van der Clay and how all these alt right. He's like this kind of like this like not a figurehead, but more of like a teacher for all these young alt right Christian men. And he what were we talking? He's Calvinist. What is he? I know he has.
Yes, he's Calvinist.
Yeah, he's Calvinist, and that sounds horrible. Well, not that the only thing I like about Calvinism is predestination, but I know that they're very like reserved and Calvinists are not like warmongers, or like they're not they're very subdued, and that's not what we need right now. I mean, Calvinism is going to be more like self austerity, you know what I mean? Not like Islam, like get a sword and conquer the earth. Calvinism is more like beat yourself with a stick, you know what I mean? Like, that's not going to work. That's not these people are. Yeah, so anyway, why don't you talk about
Tell
Paul
me
Vander.
about predestination. I'm certainly very interested about Calvinism and your understanding of it.
Well, no, all I know is that it's about, well, okay, the thing, actually, Calvinism is retarded, and it's going to make things even worse from your perspective, because Calvinism has this, like, 5 pillars or 5 points, the 5 points of
Well, the
Calvinism.
tulip thing, right? Is
Well,
that what you mean?
there's like the 5 points of Calvinism or something. Don't they call themselves five?
So total depravity and
Yeah.
conditional. What's it?
Okay. The one thing that's so stupid about that, once you've accepted Jesus into your heart, and once you've become a confessed Christian in Him, you cannot go to hell no matter what you've done. Okay. You can go and murder and rape and pillage and steal and do everything your whole horrible life, but as long as you've accepted Jesus into your heart, you're not going to hell.
Right.
Which is just disgusting. Which is the most disgusting ideology on earth. Look, I mean, if you're okay, what's the point? What's the point of making supernatural revenge for your sins? It's so that stupid people who don't see any other reason why don't hurt people in their life. Either you're going to go to jail if that's not enough for you, or to try to prevent you from doing it before that, you scare them about the afterlife, right? You scare them and you say if you murder someone in this life, you're gonna burn in in hell. So what's the purpose of having an afterlife if it's not even meant to scare you into doing the right thing? It's all made up anyway. So you have this fake afterlife. The only thing it's going to scare you into is believing in Jesus, but then you can still do whatever you want.
Yes. Yes. So, I mean, we didn't discuss the 5 points of Calvinism because I think Paul van der Clay, is this avuncular, father figure who, obviously has a great appeal to young men who lack this father figure. He certainly isn't interested in the finer points of Calvinism. I think he's just sort of, bringing people to Christianity. And he was operating on the estuary protocols, and it is basically gathering people into groups, getting to them to introduce themselves, and then asking each member of the group to propose a topic that they want discussed in the second round, and in the third round agreeing on the topic that they want to discuss. And that was how it worked. I thought it worked quite well. And so I guess we had a nice chat about how to preserve Christianity, how Westerners can preserve Christianity without being too mean about it, and my question was, do we live in a post-truth society, which somebody else wanted to discuss as well. So that was gratifying, and it kind of merged in the main topic of how does the European preserve his Christian heritage, which of course wasn't particularly decided. I was kind of put on the spot by the one of them who said, do I think Christianity was a good thing, and I didn't answer properly. And today I was thinking of how to answer it properly if I'd thought about it. In a tactful way. I mean, obviously, even if really bad stuff happened to you, you can't pretend it didn't and say it's no longer part of your identity. I mean, for example, if you were sexually abused as a child, you can't just undo it by saying you reject it. You have to somehow resolve the bad thing that happened to you and, move forward, best foot forward and all that sort of thing. And obviously I'm saying, it would be Islam or secular Quranism, but of course the problem is getting these people to accept it. But anyway, that's my report, I guess.
Hold on, I'm just sharing this our YouTube conversation. Um, this disgusting thing about post-truth society in is really only coming up in the right, and it reminds me everything you will not believe. So I don't know if you remember, but I did a 4-part series. I also wrote an article on what's it called, on flat Earth, right? So flat Earth is spreading really quickly in the alt right, and then I just found out. So which
You,
is going to tie into my our theme for today, Carol Balizet, but also now they're getting into viruses aren't real, nuclear weapons aren't real, these different kinds of things, this post truth, and you know what? I'm actually Look, I'm trying to make such a microscopic nucleus of a cult to see like make seeds for the future that I used to want to go in and like get these white men to like correct themselves and like maybe be better and have better understanding and be more productive. And now I'm actually glad that they're involved in flat Earth, no viruses. What else? What other nonsense? no space. We don't go to space. There's no such thing as satellites. It's balloons. Um, you know,
They're denying the achievements of Western civilization. I think they're doing it as a way of showing their hatred of their government, and basically accusing their governments of, oh, you've been lying to us for generations. And all the good things that we're supposed to be proud of, it never happened. That
yeah.
kind of idea. But I mean, I don't think it's rational. They don't even care if it's rational. It's like, we're just competing with each other to show how much we hate our government, and that there is no evil that we refuse to believe about our government, and it doesn't matter how crazy and illogical, and against all recorded history it is. We're just going to pretend we believe in it, in order to show our hatred. And one of the things I've noticed about flat Earth is that you got, even the people with the full knowledge, it's very hard to argue against them because, if you wanted to say, well, actually, it's the Earth that goes round the sun and not the other way around. I mean, how are you going to prove it? And I've noticed that even physics graduates like Jen and others that I've spoken to find it very difficult to say, look, it's obvious that the Earth goes round the sun and not the other way around, because there's some complicated technical stuff that they have to explain, and the person listening will just pretend not to understand, or just interrupt with some stupid, oh, but it looks flat to me, kind of thing. They will have some slogan ready to interrupt the person trying to explain this complicated theory.
But no, I explain it very uncomplicated, and it's so, you know what, it's how you explain it, and it's also, these people want to sound super smart. There is a way. So this is how you explain it. The Earth is a globe, and it rotates, and it spins, and it goes around the sun. If that is true, and we make a model of that in either a real model or a computer model, we can predict every day on the dot where each star is going to be, where each planet is going to be, where each comet is going to be, what time of day it's going to be, where the ocean tides are going to be, when there's going to be a lunar eclipse, when there's going to be a solar eclipse. We can predict everything. Everything happens exactly as we say it's going to happen, right where we say it's going to happen. How is it that we're able to predict all of these things and know all of these things if the model is wrong? How? And their response, the responses that I got with with these people half the time, and this is the other thing about these people, are that you never know if they're telling the truth or not, and you never know if they believe it or not. But they told me these are the responses that I got. Two of them, one or three of them. One is that all the solar eclipses of the past that were ever recorded were recorded by Jews as part of a conspiracy. Number two, either the solar eclipses are optical illusions or NASA does it somehow. Or number three, that geometry and astronomy are Freemason sciences.
Okay, nice and simple, right? That the hecklers have it nice and easy, and you have to have you have this complicated model of rotating Earth, and yeah, so in a way, what they're doing is kind of winning the argument by repeating their catechism almost. You just sort of you suddenly realise what the catechism that Catholics used to learn was for. It's like it's basically singing over your opponent, because you don't want to hear what they want to say, and the singing will drown the voice of your opponent, saying whatever he's saying, and the audience will be none the wiser. And there are ways that certain arguments keep going, and I guess if one of the parties is acting in bad faith, then they'll just pretend not to understand, or deliberately distort what you're trying to say.
Well, that's all of the dissident, right? This is all they do, and this is like the cube run by Lewis Wayne. Unfortunately, I tell them the only reason I hang out around there is because nobody else will talk to me. Like, you know what I mean? But like the thing is, like, I go in there and I can't even first of all, you can't really have a real debate with them for two reasons. Number one, they just constantly interrupt to the point that nothing's ever being said, to the point that they're all interrupting each other to the point that even their interruptions, they don't get to finish their interruptions. It's just like constant interruptions and you get nowhere. Or the other thing is that they're either pretending they're so dumb or they really are so dumb that they don't understand what you're saying, and then they come back with illogical responses. You know, they come back with responses to things you didn't even say, you know, the points you didn't even make, and they come back at you like that. And part of it, I do think, is in bad faith, and like this whole like schizophrenic vibe, like you know that a lot of the alt right likes to put on. Like I do believe, like you know, that guy Jack Starr on the Cube. I think he hams up his schizophrenia. Like I think he purposely. I think he has it a little bit, maybe to a certain degree. But
Oh, sorry, what does he have, this Jack Star person? I didn't quite catch that. Your audio is not very good. Maybe you can, if you can make it better, that would be appreciated.
you can't hear me that well.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite distorted, but maybe you can't help it.
Hold
But
on,
anyway,
hold on. Let me
I,
come back in. Hold on.
still waiting for Vincent to come back in. Sorry about the dead air. Here he is. Hello,
Hello.
Vincent. Yes.
Um, no, but also like I with Jock Stark, I mean, playing up your mental illness, pretending to be more schizophrenic than you really are, pretending to be more stupid than you really are constantly. Um, you know,
Yeah.
like it's just it's not just I think it's a mix of actually being stupid and also a culture of pretending to be stupid too. It's like the two come together in this deadly combination.
I
Like
know.
it's a deadly combination of true stupidity and joking stupidity. But this is the thing: if you constantly joke and pretend you're stupid all day, eventually you become stupid because you don't ever talk about anything serious. You don't ever update your mind. You don't ever, you know what I mean? You eventually are going to become dumb.
Yes, and I think, the awful truth is that most men are infantilized and feminized, so they're scared and they think they can get away with being stupid and pleading their disability. And then they end up wasting everybody's time because they're not debating in good faith. And and one of those little ideas that I came up with was, if you can have a kind of debate exchange that it's like, I want to, I don't know, promote Sharia, for example, and it's like, anybody who hates the idea, come and argue against what I propose. And I mean, what do you think? And then obviously the people who do it, eventually a good one will come up, and then you don't have to listen to all the mad, crazy, stupid ones.
I don't know if there really is anyone who isn't mad stupid because
I know,
the,
I
the, the,
thought you were
pro-
going to say that.
the problem is that the people who aren't mad and stupid are very boring and cookie cutter. And like, okay, I don't know if you saw on the Cube, my therapist dumped me because she couldn't handle me. She couldn't handle me because you know what? Like we were talking, and basically my whole premise was like, look, I've studied these Jews for so long, I adopt their ideas now. Like it makes sense not to be tolerant. Like okay, in the West, everything's tolerance, tolerance,
You
tolerance.
actually have a therapist and she dumped you?
Well, yeah, she's not
Or
the only
were you
one.
joking or telling a story about
No,
somebody
I
else?
had well, I have three therapists and one dumped me because she couldn't like deal with the fact that I wasn't a Western person that was automatically into the culture of tolerance, and it was just too much for her to deal with and she couldn't deal with it. What I'm saying is like if we tried debating sane people, they just like, "Oh, this is weird." Sane people don't want to debate us either. They don't want to talk to us because it's like, with them, anything that's a little bit different, like even with chat with
the AI, like I talked to her about things and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to consider this opinion. And she's like, well, some opinions shouldn't be considered because they're just so far out that blah, 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 you shouldn't even entertain them. And
That's terrible.
yeah,
Oh
she did. She
God.
told me. But that AI is like the standard. What is the standard person thinking or being educated? What does the West want you to believe? Ask AI, and you'll see what the Western answer is. And yes, the Western answer is there are certain things you shouldn't be entertaining. And she also told me, because we're going to talk about a cult today. So I was, I do these thought experiments with her where, like, I was pretending I was getting interested in the cult, and all I said to her, I didn't say I was joining. I said, well, I'm going to keep an open mind and I'm going to go listen to them and I just want to see what they have to say. And she was discouraging me from listening to them because, she's like, these people have harmful ideals and blah 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 blah. And but she actively discouraged me from actually reading the cult's material.
Do you have any male therapists?
I do have a male therapist and I have
Are they a
problems.
bit better than the female? Are they more open minded?
No, I think that they're more I think I think the men tend to be a little bit less scared and a little bit, because I have a very strong personality and also I have, what they consider illiberal views. I'm not illiberal, I'm very liberal. I'm just a strong liberal. I'm just not a weak liberal. I'm a strong liberal. And so maybe the men are a little bit less intimidated, but I'm having a big problem with my therapist.
Oh,
Wait,
that's terrible. I
Did
mean,
we go over? Okay, let me give you the whole thing about my therapy from start to finish. So I came to this therapist. My last therapist, after one session, told me he couldn't help me at all. Like he was just like, "You're too fucked up." He didn't say you're too fucked up. He just said, "I can't help you." So I wanted to get a new psychiatrist or whatever. I called up this new therapy and they said, well, you have to do the psychiatry and therapy with us together. So I did it together. To make a long story short, what happened was I on the entrance form, on the intake form, something very odd. They asked an odd question. First, they asked what my religion was, which is not the oddest question. Okay, that I've seen on medical forms before. But then they asked me if I wanted religion to be incorporated into my therapy. And I just thought that that was odd that they were offering that because, is this I felt this was like a rather secular, institution, and I just thought it was odd. So I get there on the first day, and on the wall, there's this book, repetitive book about recovering from spiritual abuse. So I thought that was odd. Um, to make a long story short, I started talking a lot about my own cult and religious abuse and what happened to me from religion. And basically, I was told, like, you're too obsessed with religion. Can you calm that down? Or people might not be able to work with you. Therefore, my therapist leaving. Um, I got really, like, upset in that I later found out that my male therapist, who's in control of everything, is the head honcho, was raised in Christian Science. So he was raised in a cult and he almost died from Christian Science. And he's just telling me, and he wrote a book on religious abuse and he offers religious counseling. And he's telling me to just get over my religious abuse after like the second week. Like, you know what I mean? And then I really got upset with him because suicide came up in therapy. And I basically said, it's your right. You can do whatever you want. I don't, it's, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And he's like, well, there's consequences. And I said, no, not for the person who committed suicide. There's not. And he said, well, yes, there is. And then he started getting into soul and spirit. And I don't like, you can't make your point rationally. So you have to get into mysticism to actually prove that killing yourself is wrong. You can't prove killing yourself is wrong. So don't get into magic with me. I don't like when, and that's the other thing about these right wing men too. That it's this when they can't get you with logic and reason, they go into magic, and I really hate that. I think it's really creepy, really disgusting, and I find people that get involved in magic to be more immoral than people who don't. I find that like people obviously religions do all kind of fucked up things to people. I think people into mysticism do more fucked up things to people than people who aren't into mysticism, than like a pure rationalist scientist, like logician. Like I think that mystical people are more evil.
Yeah, because they're actually asking you to believe in nonsense, and also, the Abrahamic religions forbid them. That, sorcery, witchcraft. You're not supposed to practice any of it, but which is a way of recognizing its power. Because I
Yes,
guess,
even when they
if
get,
people believe in
even if
it.
he got religious, even if he said, "Oh well, Jesus says that there," I would still be upset. Like, don't bring uh stuff into this like that. Like, don't bring religion into this to prove your point. You can't prove your point. You can't prove your point. Just admit it. I'm right. You're wrong. There's no way to prove there's anything wrong with suicide. Just, don't gross me out by reaching for mysticism. And then he started talking about mystical psychology, and I really got sick to my stomach, to be honest with you.
Mystical psychology. They're just making it up on the hoof. I mean, I guess suicide is sort of, well, it's my life. I'll do whatever I want with it, and I guess a religious argument against suicide is that your life doesn't even belong to you. It belongs to God, and God says no, you can't commit suicide, and if you do, you're going to get punished. You're not going to get it, get on the fast track to heaven. You'll be, kind of put in a bad place in the afterlife. So, I mean, that would be the religious argument against suicide. And I guess a practical one's like, well, you might feel you want to kill yourself now, but actually, if you stop being so crazy and depressed, you might actually find something in your life worth living, and blah blah blah. So,
Look, the pure rational argument is, let's say I want to kill myself right now, and let's say I did it. I'm dead, so I can't regret killing myself. There's no going to be, if I kill myself right now, I can't regret doing it. I can't.
no, you can't. But I suppose you might think, well, what about the people who find me? That it would upset my husband, it would upset my
But if you've gotten
loved
over that,
ones
if
and
you've gotten over
parents
that
and children
already,
and whoever.
if you've gotten over that already, then
What?
if you've
I mean,
gotten
okay,
over,
you're saying you don't care about them.
yeah, if you've gotten over that already,
Are
then
you are you saying, okay, but I don't care if they're upset. I want to upset them. That's the whole point of me committing suicide, because they
look,
failed me, and I want them to know.
there's no logical argument you can use to tell people there's anything wrong with committing suicide or that they're going to regret it. Can you give me 1 second?
Sure. So, like my little idea, I seem to have so many, is that there should be a website which is basically a form filling exercise for people who want to commit suicide. And I think what's really annoying for people is that they somebody kills themselves, and there's no suicide note. It's like, come on, at least tell us why you did it and who you blame and whatever. And there should be a kind of, stage like, oh, I'm just thinking about it, I'm preparing for it, I really am going to do it, and this is what I want to say to the people. It's that sort of idea. So I guess people might argue that it is legitimizing suicide, but I'm saying it's part of the therapy for people with suicidal tendencies. I trained for the Samaritans some years ago, but I wasn't accepted for apparently I'm too bossy or something. But for the Samaritans, you're supposed to be non-judgmental. You don't say, oh, you mustn't do it. It's like you just have to listen to them, but you can't tell them not to do it. I think that was basically the rule. But I'm saying there should be a website for people like, why do you want to kill yourself? And then, and then they have to, type in a few, fill in that there would be a kind of dialogue box for them to fill in. So at least they say something, oh, my girlfriend told me, or whatever it is.
Well, yes, this is what when I promote suicide rights, yes, I mean, one of the things is that I say is that I don't necessarily mean to set up a suicide clinic and anyone can walk right off the street any old day and like inject themselves and die. I think that there needs to be like some kind of process and waiting period and like, things like that. And I would say that these suicide clinics should be made like you can go and you can do like, an inpatient and they try to convince you not to kill yourself. They give you medication. Are you homeless? They try to find you a home. There should be a lot of like social work that goes in before you actually try to kill yourself to try to stop it. But like, yeah, I mean, there should be a period of time where you've just said, well, I want to kill myself. That's it. And I also think that there should be special options of like fast tracks. Either you're in a lot of pain or I also think that you should be able to get instantaneous death if you're homeless and no one can put you anywhere and the only alternative is to dump you back into the street, then yes, I think you should have emergency suicide rights because it's not right to just dump someone in the street and tell them to go live their life. That's not if someone comes to you for help and you can't help them and your only option is to dump them in the street, then yes, give them, if the society can't take care of you, then I'm sorry. Like, it's best for you to be dead.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to agree. I mean, but yeah, I guess people are depressed, and that their government is making them depressed.
Well, this is the other thing about suicide rights that I always try to, bring up, and I bring it up in that gaymilitant.blogspot.com, that gay militant manifesto. Did we already do a show on that? I don't know if we did a show on that.
So we say that again.
The Gay Militant blog. I don't think we did a show on that, but we can talk about that today too.
Okay.
So that gay militant, those laws of gay militancy, on gaymilitant.blogspot.com. In one of them, the suicide one, I make it clear, look, okay, here's my thing. If you have control over the culture, you're going to have control over who becomes suicidal. If you have a very homophobic culture, a lot of gay men are going to be very suicidal. And if you allow suicide rights, you're going to get them out of the population really quickly and you're going to reduce their influence. Now we have a very homo accepting culture, and women and gays have lots of power and lots of control in the culture, and all these single white straight men are suicidal. So I'm saying now is the time. Open up the suicide clinics, get rid of them all. They're suicidal. Gays are less suicidal because things are working more in our favor. Also, like, we could try to get the gays not to kill themselves, but if some racist, bigoted, homophobic white man comes in without a girlfriend and he can't find a girlfriend because he's such an asshole and that's his problem, then let him go and get rid of him and cleanse the population. It's a genocide. I've never said it's not a genocide. I mean, yes, it's cleansing. It's not ethnic cleansing, but it's mental cleansing. It gets rid of people of a certain mentality. I tell heterosexuals they're retarded. If I were a homophobe, I would impose a strict homophobic culture and allow suicide rights, and gay people would just kill themselves. That would just end that, and it would never reappear ever again because there would be no gay people to fight back.
Well, I mean, people can become gay later. I mean, surely there are statistics to say whether that the people who are have a death certificate certifying that they've committed suicide were case more young men now. Then you kind of know why. It's like it's harder to be a man than it is to be a woman, and therefore something ought to be done if you care about these young men who kill themselves.
No, but nobody does. Nobody does because they don't care about anyone else. Look, straight men don't care about anyone except for themselves. So that's why women don't give a fuck. They're killing themselves. Kids, gays, blacks. I mean, look, straight men of every race don't care about anyone but themselves. But white straight men are particularly caring only about themselves, or they're more arrogant about it. The thing is that, it is easy to focus on white men because they're they're the worst of the worst. Like, you know, they're the most nasty, they're the most cruel, they're the most fucked up, and they're smarter, so they're more cunning about it and more biting about it and more sick about it. And like, it's just they bite the most, they bark the most, they sting the most. So they're the ones that you really want to go after. Like, yeah, I am after I you know, like, I am after all straight men. Do all straight men, you know, aggravate me? Yeah, they do. But like, white straight men, yes. Like, it's more visceral. So when I hear that they're killing themselves, I like it. And a lot of women do. A lot of people do. A lot of people like hearing that. And I just want to accelerate it by making it legal, and then, you know, basically creating a culture where, well, expanding the culture where we already have, where women and gays have a lot of power, but then just like really, really humiliate these men. You know, that they can't find girlfriends. They want to have kids, but they can't. They want to have good jobs, but they can't. And, you know, and for them, status is a big thing. Like, they need to make more money than the woman. They need to be in supporting her, because then they have total control, and they can't do that anymore. And, you know, they can't, even if they wanted to, they couldn't be a single income household. It's impossible for one man to take care of a woman and kids and have complete control over the house anymore. She has to bring in money. And so, and the thing is that these
Well,
white
they can
men,
propose to change the economic system. You know, they can propose repealing, you know, feminist legislation, abolishing equal pay, that sort of thing. They could do
yeah,
that,
yeah,
but they
but you
can't
need,
even get themselves together to propose it. That is what I
no, that's why
mean.
they're not going to, and that's why I'm not scared of them anymore, and I don't really think I'm going to be working with them anymore, um, because they're not capable of doing that. And I always tell them, and they all know it's true. Okay, let's say you take white men under the age of 35. A lot of them are unmarried, and if they are married, they don't have many kids, and a lot of them have no girlfriends and are childless. And the fact of the matter is, that's not changing anytime soon. Okay,
Well,
these
they can only change it by becoming Muslim. I mean, I just don't see how they can, you know, do it without religion.
Well, no,
Because
even
if
it's
you
too
say you
late.
want to
It's too
change,
late for them already. What even if they became Muslim tomorrow? It's not like all these white women overnight are going to say, "Oh yes, let's become nice, homely Muslim housewives and start reproducing at lightning speed." Like, that's not going to happen. Feminism has already destroyed white women. They don't want, and they'll go with a dark man because that's exotic, and because he's dark men are allowed to be bigoted, and dark men are allowed to be sexist and homophobic, and, you know, it's sexy when they do it. But I mean, if we went Muslim, all these white women would go marry Arab men. They're not going to marry white, pathetic, even, you know, pathetic gamers, you know, who are racist. You know, and it's not just, look, you could be racist and sexy. I find some racist sexy. What's not sexy and like, it's just joke racism. You know what I would find sexy racism? If like a scientific racist, like one of those old school like 1920s 1910s like ethnographers, you know, who wrote about skull shape and culture and language, and that's sexy racism. This racism that they promote, where it's just memes of black people in stereotypical positions and all stereotypical jokes that are one-liners, like, that's not, girls don't want that. You know, I mean, you know, and it's just, it's sexier coming from the darker men. They're not, you know, I don't know, like, you know, the white men can't jump. White men can't be low. It just comes off worse. It just comes off unattractive. There's something sexy about a ghetto like Latino guy that with the pants down the legs, or the pants down all the way around his ankles and stuff like that. He can pull it off. Like, a white man can't pull that off. It just looks shitty on him. You know, that it does. That's a
yeah.
really good way. That's a good way to put it. Like, it just looks shitty on the white man.
And I guess he'd be accused of being a redneck, which is a very unsexy image. And in the UK, they call them bacon. Sorry, no, 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 gammon, not bacon, gammon, because of their um, appearance.
Well, yeah, I mean, just like, it's just not a good look. It doesn't come across. Okay, let's just say that white men don't do trashy as sexy as like dark men do. And yet, I would have to say that when white men are trashy, they're generally unattractive, gross, unpleasant to be around, not charismatic. Whereas a ghetto thug, you could be some like Latino black thug in the street selling drugs, but you still got some charisma to you. You still got some like swag to you. Even if you're like low end, you could still at least you've got that like black thug hot energy going on. You know what I mean? Whereas like if you're trailer trash white, when whites go trashy, it's not sexy. Except unless you're doing like a gay porn or something like that. No, it's not sexy. There is a limit. There is a subset of like sexy, trashy white men. And there is a porn genre for them, but the vast majority of trashy white men are not sexy. And at
Well,
least like thugs, street Latino black thugs, they have street knowledge. What does a trashy white guy doesn't have book knowledge? They're usually not street people. They're usually more like hicks, like I don't know, isolated and shit. So they're not like even criminally smart. What do they have to offer except for like bellicose yelling about bags? Oh, oh God, will that get this taken down?
sorry, what did you just say? I
I just said
didn't.
the FAG word. Will that get this taken down?
I don't know. I'll leave it up because you're showing contrition and whatever.
I didn't
Sometimes
mean to
people
say
just use the
that.
wrong word. Yeah.
They use that word. I hear people use that word on YouTube all the time, and the things don't get taken down.
Yeah, so we should be okay. Um, but
Um, you
but
know,
I think this is really fundamentally their problem. I mean, one of the reasons I went yesterday is just to see how the middle classes are trying to deal with it, and all they can think of is to go back to Christianity, and it's like, well, when it was taken seriously, they killed people. They burnt heretics at the stake. They, hanged them for heresy. It didn't just happen like that when people respected, Christianity. And if they want to go back to that, I don't think, some people might say, well, maybe Sharia is not that bad. If you're saying the alternative is to go back to, hanging heretics or even burning them.
well, the thing is that this is the thing about those stupid Christians. The only reason Christians had power and got anywhere is because they were burning heretics and witches and pagans and all that other kind of stuff. Yes, if you're not going to get back to an old time Christian culture unless you start killing people. So and Muslims the same way. Muslims are not going to change Europe by coming in all, oh, we're liberal Muslims now, kumbaya, let's all suck each other's dicks. Like that's not going to bring. None of that is going. It's going to take some insanity from either Islam or Christianity to return things to the way they were.
Yeah. So the thing is, their problem is that they don't even know what their problem is, or they kind of half know about it and they're looking away, when they're in denial. When you think, ooh, I might have cancer, oh, but I don't want to go to the doctor to have it confirmed. It's that sort of attitude. Do you think that this is the denial stage? When I think it happens to all of us. We don't dare look, and maybe we don't look on purpose, or we look away,
Well,
or we run away
I
when
think
somebody tells us to look at it.
we're past denial, and that everyone's talking about it now, and I think everyone admits there's a problem, but the solution to the problem is what it. Now they're lying to themselves. Christians are fucking lying to themselves, that thinking that look, you wanna change things, you have to make homosexuality illegal. You can't just You can't look, all these Christians want a Christian world where they accept their gay brother or their gay son. That's not going to work.
No, of course not, because this is the problem of Christianity. It has no rules. Nothing is said properly. It's like, if you're going to take the New Testament seriously, it's like, what are you supposed to do with the adulterers? Stone them or not? And there is this ambiguity about it. Even with, giving these Christians a benefit of the doubt and, trying to fill in the blanks for them, it makes no sense. And the whole operation of Christianity was, just shut up and pray to Jesus if you're upset, but while you live, obey the law of the land. That was how it was supposed to work. And this the founding fathers rejected, and so did the French revolutionaries, and in the end the Russians got fed up with this Christian monarchy business. And then, after that they tried to replace Christianity with liberalism and fascism and Nazism, and it's all crashed and burnt. And, well, now they're not wanting to adopt the obvious solution, which I'm saying is Islam, whether they like it or not. I mean, all they're doing is, our Christian heritage, the Judeo-Christian heritage of the West, and whatever. And this Hamas and Israel war, I mean, it's still about that. It's about Jews and Muslims fighting each other for, in the Holy Land. And Christians are somehow supposed to solve it when, well, their head is full of nonsense. And nobody is taking any kind of leadership role, are they? They're just looking away and pretending, they're shopping for Christmas, planning their holiday next year or whatever. And even these Jews and Muslims in their spaces, when they're trying to blame each other for their savagery and whatever, they're not even talking about the most obvious thing. It's like, well, if you really believe in God, you'd have to ask, like, well, who would God support in the Hamas-Israel war? They're not even asking themselves that question. And that is what I find so disgusting. But then there is a verse in the Quran that basically curses hypocrites and says their final destination is hell. And I'm afraid, even hypocrites will end up in hell. And yes, heaven, if it exists, will be a very exclusive place, very quiet. Hardly anybody there. But Vincent, I think you are fundamentally a religious man, and what is driving you crazy? You were talking about your therapist earlier. Is that you see things in a certain way, and you have a few principles. You created your own moral system, and you see the logic of promoting them, and most people don't. They just sort of kind of look over their shoulders and say, and wonder to themselves whether it's safe to say this to this person or whatever. And nothing gets done because, they inevitably decide it's not safe, so they don't say anything. They're just waiting for everything to be, virtually certain, and then they'll do it. But otherwise, they're just going to cower in their lives of quiet or not noisy desperation, not coming to any decision and not telling anybody what they think. And I think that's a problem, and I think you're one of the few people who are at least prepared to verbalize your feelings. I'm really shocked that your therapists have abandoned you. I think I'm your therapist, really, aren't I?
Well, they kind of have. The one therapist really abandoned me for real, for real. And then my other therapist abandoned me the moment he brought God into it, and he couldn't meet me intellectually, so he had to get mystical. He didn't even bring God, he brought mysticism into it. Souls and spirits, and he used the word mystical.
But Vincent, what is it you really want out of life? You want recognition, don't you?
I want Okay, I've downsized to what exactly it is that I want. I want to leave behind something that is functionary, even if it's small, with the idea of becoming big. But if it is only small in my lifetime, I'll still be happy. I all I need to do is start something that I see going somewhere, which I've done with the Noahide laws. The Noahide laws, my movement, the anti-Noahide law movement doesn't go fast enough for me. No, I'm not like I'm I'm happy that I did it, and I will always have in my arsenal that I started the anti-Noahide movement and I set the tone for it, and I'm the one who got the information out. It's not running as fast as I'd like it to, no, but maybe it won't in my lifetime. Maybe it. Look, I've seen it grow in the past 10 years. It's going to grow in the next 10 years. It's slow, but as it grows, it speeds up in its growth. And as long as I see like healthy, positive growth in my lifetime, then I'll be okay. You know, yeah, I mean, yeah, there was a time I wanted massive change and I wanted lots of followers and lots of this and lots of that. But, you know, I've kind of realized that if I'm going to be as out there as I really am, I'm not going to garner mass movement. I'm not going to garner a lot of people, you know, to my side.
But why can't you? Um, you, okay, so are you saying that you're the number one no hide promoter?
Say it again.
That's you. You want to promote the no hide laws in order to provoke the heterosexuals to support it, and then what, the liberal forces will kick them out or stamp them down or something like that.
Look, hold on. 1 second. I'll be there in 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so this is what I understand is Vincent's agenda. He wants to support. He wants heterosexual people to support the no hide laws to the extent that they start executing these sodomites, adulterers, idolaters, and blasphemers, provoking a liberal counter revolution, I suppose. And,
Yes.
and, and,
Okay. Look,
and
here's the thing. Homosexual people, there's going to be a turning against homosexuality anyway. Anyway. This is actually, at seems first seems bad for gays, but it's actually good because we need to get over this fluffy area of gay rainbows and parades and dressing up like fairies and stuff like that. And making the boys dress up like girls and that kind of stuff. This is like not good, militant, strong, healthy homosexuality. So a turn on us would actually be good because it would toughen our nails. We would have to fight back. But I'm saying if we really want a gay system, if we want the gays, we want the straights to really react against us, but also have like no heidism will give the straight people a strong cultural foundation and understanding and framework to go after gay people. And it would be a Noahide anti-gay movement would be very strong and very powerful and very teaching to gay men. We would learn a lot from that.
I think you need to do something that is considered potentially radical, that is serious, because I think the problem is that people don't really take your plan seriously, and,
Well,
and
just let's give
well,
it.
because do they, gay men aren't interested in your artificial wombs and
You don't know that.
your plan to abolish women.
I just published the article. It's not like it's been out for a year and nobody's like I have like feedback from gay men.
But gay men aren't interested in your hobby horses, are they? They're just more interested in having sex with each other rather than contemplating
Well,
political
if I can't change their
paradigms for
mind,
you.
if I can't change their minds and their attitudes, then goodbye to them. If that's how you want to live your life, then fuck you. You're gonna just be slaves for the rest of eternity then, I guess.
Gay men, slaves, who owns them?
Straight people, straight society.
Well, don't straight people feel they are lower in status than gay people because in our inverted social and moral pyramid, the lowest people in the patriarchy are now above them, and white heterosexual men are right at the bottom. They're expected to take all the responsibility for everything that has gone wrong, but they have no power to do what is expected of them, and they don't even realise it, and they're too afraid to complain. Don't you think
Look,
that is a
if
problem? Isn't
I
that why they're
cannot
killing
change gay men's
themselves?
values, if I cannot change gay men's values, then no, nothing will happen. And you're right. The heterosexuals will rule supreme. And if gay men cannot change, I hope heterosexuals rule supreme forever and ever and ever, and gay men don't ever get a chance ever again. What's the point if you're not going to reform, if you're not going to change who you are and overcome who you are, then you don't deserve power.
But I mean, it's all a matter of interpretation, isn't it? It's sort of like the Jews. I mean, Gentiles think that Jews always have one over them, while Jews sort of feel persecuted, and they only say things to comfort themselves and make themselves feel there is a point to enduring the restrictions of Judaism. But of course they're not sure. They're not sure if there's an afterlife. I guess they stay Jewish because they don't want to upset mum and dad and everybody else, and I don't think people even know why they do half of the things of what they do. They just want to be happy, but they have all these impulses. They want to get married, and then when they're married, they're not happy, and then they commit adultery, and then when it's found out that they're even less happy, and it's sort of lurching from one moral misadventure to another. I mean, I'm a political activist saying, look, these rules will say what the right thing is and punish the people who do the bad things, but there is you might get away with it, but at least you're not supposed to do it, and that's my only recommendation of what I propose. And I think if you were to support secular Quranism and later promote no-hidism, you could still get what you want. But for some reason, you won't because it's not your idea. A lot of people reject secular Quranism because it's not their idea, or because it's a bit radical and obviously going to get people into trouble. But I think if you did go on to secular Quranism and say, oh, I'm going to protect gay rights under this kind of quasi Sharia law thing, you could get a lot of publicity, which is what you want, and there's no need for you to stay a secular Quranist. You could treat it as your stepping stone, and then you can say, right, secular Quranism isn't hardline enough, I'm promoting no-hidism, come with me. That's what you could do.
You're trying to make me your shill in an indirect way.
Well, I'm making a bargain. I'm just pointing out to you that people will take secular Quranism, even though they hate it, more seriously than your plan to abolish women and make all men gay. I mean, that's your plan, isn't it? At the end of the day, you want to be known as a man who abolished women and dispensed with the birth-giving characteristics of women, but through the use of artificial wombs, and all men in the future will be gay, and maybe that's a bit overambitious compared to little old secular Quranism.
No, but mine would take decades. I'm not looking to take control of the government quickly. I'm not looking to change minds quickly. I'm looking to do things even in secret. My plan is a lot more sober in that it's like I'm not looking to invent the womb tomorrow and breed my gay army in my lifetime and take over by force. I'm looking.
Well, I can. I can think of a few questions to ask you. Like, okay, let's assume you manage to abolish women and you turn all men gay. How are you going to choose who will, who gets reproductive rights out of your entire society of gay men?
Well, a man,
Assuming you turn,
well,
all
a
the men
man.
of the earth
The point
gay.
is that, look, I mean, every gay man would have the option to have a child, but they would have very good genetic material to choose from to mix it with. And
What is good genetic material?
well, okay, they would decide. They would decide. Okay, like they would see a woman or a man or whatever the DNA was coming from, and they would say, "This is the type of person I want, to create." And I trust most gay men to choose intelligent, attractive, um, talented people to reproduce with, and not, I don't think that, a gay man is going to go out and choose a 400-pound woman with subpar IQ to be the mother of his child. It's just not going to happen. That's a straight man's thing. While he's drunk, he does it, and she's high on meth. But no, but I trust them, and they would also have genetic engineering at their disposal and all genetic reproductive technologies and stuff.
You do see that heterosexuals will, start. Well, they would kill to destroy, whatever
No,
factories you
oh
have.
please, no, I don't think so. They can't do it now. Lots of heterosexuals wish they could kill gay people now. They can't do it at all.
No, 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 not kill gay people, but at the moment they don't see them as a threat. But once your plan is realised, people will, take steps to, not be exterminated. Well, women. Okay. You actually said you'd abolish women, and so how are you going to?
No heterosexual is smart enough to destroy something that is going to kill his great granddaughters. No heterosexual is that smart, or his no heterosexual is that smart. They're going to see me doing this. They're going to say whatever, and they know. Even if they know, heterosexuals are very selfish. If it's not them or their child right immediately in front of them, they do not care. I'm counting on heterosexual stupidity and selfishness.
So you're saying heterosexuals will allow women to be abolished?
If it's done slow enough, yes. If they don't notice what's going on, yes. I'm not, look, Claire, like I've really taken pages from the Jews. I'm not a Gentile. I'm not looking to like breed my gay army overnight and take over. Whoa, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to invent a piece of technology and start a cult on how to use that technology. Not not like, yeah, and okay, and the end
What is this technology again?
artificial wombs, but we only get rid of women once we're the predominant population, and that would take generations. Once there are more men born of artificial wombs than of natural wombs on Earth, then we can think about, herding heterosexuals into cities and not letting them breed there until they die. Like, that's the end game. And it's the same thing with the Noahide laws. Everyone knows that's the end game of the Noahide law, but that's not what it's doing right now, so no one cares. What is everyone saying? Is anyone being beheaded right now? No, so forget about it. That's what your friends are going to do. You really, Claire Koff, you went around and said, oh, Vincent's going to invent an artificial womb and take over the earth in 5 generations from now. Do you think anyone's going to do anything about that?
Of course not, because they won't take you seriously.
Okay, no, but okay, nobody's going to take me seriously, even though, look, I mean, there have been developments in tissue organ creation and in raising fetuses inside plastic bags and stuff. It's not like this is total science fiction, but I mean, nobody would even stop. Let's say that some college university started investigating creating artificial wombs. There would be no moral outcry. Nobody would stop that. It would just be regular everyday science. And and if I said, and let's say that they're inventing this there, and I said, yeah, I'm going to use that technology. When it's done, nobody's going to do anything. Nobody's going to stop me. Nobody's going to protest me. They're just going to let me do what I want to do because I don't have an army, Claire, because I'm not threatening to murder them right now.
So it does sound like only a proper religion that supports marriage would thwart your plans. And
Not immediate.
currently,
Muslim men are
Western
not going.
men just aren't going to opt for that.
Muslim men are not going to do a fucking thing while I build this cult, and they're not going to do a thing when the cult is small, and they're not going to do a thing when the cult is medium. When the cult starts getting somewhere, then they'll start complaining, but then it's too late. Okay, but like they're not going to do anything until the cult actually is killing people. Then they'll try. That's the heterosexual Gentile way. Wait until someone's getting beheaded, then do something. Lazy, stupid, useless. Heterosexuals, all of you, this is how you think.
Well, I think from the way the Mormons were persecuted across America suggests that in their time that there were heterosexual monogamous men who said we're not going to let these Mormons outbreed us, so we're just going to
And who owns a whole state now, and who has some of the best eugenic quality of human beings on earth are the Mormons. Okay, they're not doing so bad these days, are they?
Well, apparently the Mormon Church has liberalized, from what I can tell of Mitt Romney, and is Glenn Beck Mormon?
No, the Mormon Church is not liberalized. The Mormons are becoming liberal, but the church is still the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, I know this black woman who is British, and she said that things were happening in the Mormon Church that made her not go there anymore because they were liberalizing. That's what I remember her to be saying.
Well, I mean, like what, allowing black people to become priests and preachers? They still don't tolerate homosexuality and stuff like that. But even so, the Mormons won, didn't they? They are one of the fastest growing religions on earth, and for at least a while. And if they picked it back up again, if they understood, if they said, okay, well, we're going to get strict again, and we're actually going to make race part of our religion again, and this is a white man's religion, then they would be back on top of it. And if they were practicing polygamy like they were before, they would be back on top of it. If you notice, the more they became like the mainstream, the less power they had. They had more power when they were actually like a cult, like a real bona fide, hard, separate, different, unusual, weird cult. They had power. Now that they're just turning into everybody else, they're losing their power.
Yes, so there's a question mark about them being Masons, isn't it? Isn't there?
What about them?
Well, you when you were doing your thing about Masons, you were saying that they were not accepted as Masons, or were they they established their own lodge or something?
Yeah, Mormonism comes out of Freemasonry. Mormonism and Freemasonry are very connected, and many Mormons were Masons, many Masons were Mormons, but also, yes, the Mormons did kind of try to make their own version of Masonry, and for a while in Utah, Mormons weren't allowed to be Freemasons, and they go together and they go against each other, and it's like all of these things. Whenever you look at any of these conspiracies that go on, they're kind of together. It's disjointed. It's all complicated. They don't do anything straightforward, either by design or by accident, but it works for them because then they can always just stand back and say, well, nothing is the way it seems. Like, yes, we did work with the Mormons, but no, we didn't work with the Mormons. It's yes, everything can be yes and no because they played both sides the whole time.
Well, they're just not. They're not one of the Abrahamic religions. They may be Christians, but that means but Christianity is or the odd one out of the Abrahamic religions, and I hope that Jews and Muslims will call these Christians out. But because Jews and Muslims are also hypocrites, and they don't want any trouble from the Christians, they won't do what they're supposed to do, which is to call Christianity out for worshipping a deceased Jew. So, well, it's very frustrating for me because I think I have the answer and nobody will discuss my talking points because they don't want to offend people, or they think it's a bit fanatical to take it all seriously. And it's like, well, what? I mean, the most important question, if you're worried about the future, is, well, what should I do? If there is an afterlife, I want to go to the better place. How do I get to the better place? In the afterlife, I must obey God's laws. But nobody seems to be thinking in that way, apart from the ultra-Orthodox Jews. These Muslims, they think, well, I'm Muslim. I have a better chance of going to heaven than the non-Muslim. And I think, well, actually, there's this verse in the Quran that says hypocrites who call themselves Muslims, well, they go to hell too. And most of them are hypocrites. So I don't think they have a proper understanding of their religion. And of course they don't want to talk to me because I bear bad news. So I'll, probably be shot on sight because they don't want to hear it from me. But I'm saying, okay, we don't know if God exists or if there is an afterlife, but it would be better for our descendants if we supported marriage and, submitted to the burdens of living in a patriarchy for the sake of the next generation. But since most people now are atheists, they said, we don't care what happens after we're dead, and therefore this life is to be dedicated to doing whatever we can and using up whatever we need before we die. So that is how they think. And if that is how they think, then you can prove them to be immoral and shame them and denounce them if only there were enough people prepared to make these arguments. And it seems they're not. And the people who call themselves Jews, Christians and Muslims are not prepared to make these arguments. Are they? Is it hard to understand?
Well, obviously, Jews and Muslims and Christians aren't prepared to make these arguments either, because I'm sorry, even Muslims, Muslims are very restrained because they know what they're saying is bullshit. Look, you can't just go into a room full of Western people and start talking about God and the afterlife and hell, and people, even Christians, people are going to look at you like you're a fucking idiot if you go in and start talking about that shit in a general...
No, you don't. Of course it has to be in the right environment. Obviously...
Yeah, but the general culture is against that. You're working in a general culture that doesn't accept things like that. Even pulling someone aside. Most people in America, if you pull them aside and be like, look, let's talk about hell and going to hell if you're gay, even religious Christians are not going to want to get into that conversation.
No, I know they're not, and I'm not suggesting doing anything like that. But we have social media, don't we? So everybody can say, "Oh, this is what I think," and they can quote a verse, and then suddenly a certain verse of the Quran is being discussed, and that will do, and then it will be reported. I'm not saying individual Jews and Muslims take sex offenders, sodomites and whatever aside. Of course it's not going to work that way, but you can just post your opinion on social media, and that's all you have to do. And then somebody will say, I agree or I disagree, and then they might share your post, and then everybody will start talking about it, and then the mainstream media will have to report it.
Yeah, but even on... Look, if you're a young Muslim man, let's make a real situation. Let's say that you're a 20-year-old Muslim man, and you are on a college campus in the middle of New York City, a major college campus, and there's people from all walks of life, and you need to make friends, and you need to have connections, because these are jobs...
Yeah, you won't be saying any of these things. No.
No, but a young Muslim man is not going to go on his Facebook post and be like, FYI everyone, if you don't follow my way, you're going to hell, because he knows that's going to make him look like shit.
No, no. So what he would do, if he cares about it, is to pass it upwards to his imam or his hero Muslim political activist on social media, Daniel Halkikatu, or whoever, because then he'll say, well, you say it because I'm just
Oh, yeah, but then you have
$20
people that are
Muslim,
too
nobody
scared to
listens
say
to
what they
me.
want to say. Liberals and leftists are not scared. They all say what they want to say. All of them, they don't need any leader to tell them to, or they just each individual as an individual person are their own army of expression and political activism. That's why the left always wins, because they don't need to, their leaders don't need to do shit. Everyone in the left is a leader. Anyone can make a sign and go out and say whatever they want because they're not hiding anything. A Muslim can't do that. A Muslim needs to like sneak around and be careful and all this other kind of stuff. That's very oppressing to the person, is not going to help.
Yeah, but there are people like Daniel Halkikatu and people who kind of make a point about saying these things. There are people in existence who are known on social media. So these people could be making these arguments. I mean, you have heard of Daniel Halkikatu, haven't
Okay,
you?
Claire, you know what? You think that you're really going to get somewhere by talking about hell, then
No, no, I'm not. Okay, no, I'm not. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm saying that for all these disgruntled conservatives who are tearing their hair out at their elementary school children being told that gay marriage and transgenderism is an acceptable lifestyle option. I'm talking to those people. Okay, maybe they're not in the majority, but I think there are Muslim parents who have demonstrated against this proposal in Detroit. And I'm sure there'll be, concerned Christians who want to homeschool their children. They are around. It's just that, because they have no leadership, they're kind of doing different things and thinking their way is better. So the message just has to be clear. So you just go to the top, right? You go to the top man and say, look, why can't you do something about it? Shouldn't you be saying these things because our holy book says so? I mean, they could be doing that, couldn't they? But
but they're not doing that because, and they're not. Look, yes,
they're being ignored. Maybe some are doing it, but they're being ignored.
if anyone's going to be doing this, it would be Muslims. I think in the UK, because they are such a much larger percentage of the population, they actually have a disproportionate amount of power, and I think that they do feel organized enough, and they feel as though their community is large enough to go out and protest gay classes in the schools, and they have one. And so, if anyone is going to do it, it will be the Muslims. But I don't think that. That was not so much as the whole broader culture agreed with them, in that the left is confused and they don't know how to, they're stupid because they're soft leftists, and they do not know how to deal with opposition from brown people. Because if a brown person says something ignorant and bigoted and backward, it's acceptable as their culture. Okay, white people cannot chastise brown people for being ignorant and backward and stupid. Otherwise, we are racist. So, for white people, for leftists to say, well, this is not proper, that Muslims are being anti gay, breaks their own values. It's not like the whole in England was like, thank God these Muslims saved our children from transgenderism in the school. That's not what happened. The left capitulated.
Well, I think it's just nobody. I mean, the only reason why the Muslim parents did it because more of them have children of school age, and are and they're still married to each other, living together, and they live in communities, so it was easy for them to organise. While white people, most of them are not married, most of them are, don't really care if their parents, and that's why it was so easy to roll it out. Because so few white people are married parents with school-age children. And that is, I think, a social and demographic reality. and you know, when they sort of realise that, you know, they take the option of retreat, and homeschooling is retreating. It's like, well, you pay your taxes, surely your schools should be teaching your children what they should be taught, rather than all this nonsense to, you know, make sure that you don't have grandchildren. But I think people are just saying, well, I don't know what to do because nobody listens to me anyway. I think that is fundamentally their fear. And they don't actually know anyone, because most of them have no connection, so they can't pass a message up. And so I think it's a kind of, you know, motor neuron disease. You know, instead of, you know, all the sort of messages from the brain, you know, receiving, you know, being sent to, you know, all the nerve endings to do stuff, there are just so many gaps that the message is not being transmitted. And basically nobody cares. Or nobody in charge cares. And you know, because people at the bottom are so disconnected, they can't even, you know, think straight, like, well, I'm in trouble, do I have a community leader I can, you know, mention this sort of thing to? And actually the answer is no, because, you know, they hate, you know, all the you know, the Congress, you know, their representatives. They hate their representatives in Congress, and don't trust them anyway, and it just wouldn't occur to them to ask them for anything. And they have no reliable leaders because they're all so stupid. You know, they get into trouble immediately for their, you know, racist, anti-Semitic, Islamophobic comments. So they probably don't even trust themselves to even say anything. And I think that is a problem.
I just shared my screen. Can you let it in? The cube is here. The cube is here. Whatever, whoever's running that account right now, either George or Lewis.
Okay.
Actually, now that we're talking about this, so this is the topic of today. Now that we're an hour and 21 minutes in, we're actually going to talk about what we decided we were going to discuss. And actually, I think this woman might be able to help us in our endeavor, because I've been studying her. Now, before I get into her, I want to get into another cult leader. Her name is Carol Balizet. But there was another cult called the Blackburn cult, which existed in the 1920s and was run by a woman named May Otis Blackburn. Thing about her is she convinced all these people that God was transmitting a book to her that had not yet been written, but when it was written, it would show all the gold and diamond and gas deposits on Earth and oil deposits, and that she and her followers would become immensely rich. Now, all of her followers had to give them all of her money while she lived in wealth, and they lived in absolute poverty. Thing is, what was I going to say? That she also convinced them that the Earth would be ruled by 11 queens who would rule from Beverly Hills, Hollywood, in 11 marble mansions, and they would each have a stable of 12 king husbands at their command. The thing is that, okay, how the fuck did this woman convince a lot of people, and not all stupid people? They weren't all stupid. There were like business
Wealthy people.
wealthy people, police officers, doctors, like, you know, not just anybody was in this cult. How on earth, what did she have in her that she was able, and they stayed with her even though it was so fishy? Like, they eventually said, this book is taking too long, when is it going to be written? And they were asking to see it, and she was showing them fake copies and all this other kind of stuff, and they all stayed with her. Okay, fast forward. So I just recently found out about this woman named Carol Balizet. Carol Balizet, I learned about her because everyone knows I study Christian Science, and I exposed to the Judeo-Freemason roots of Christian Science, but also the fact that they just basically let their children die from medical neglect and get away with it with, religious exemption laws. In some states, if you're a Christian Scientist and you allow your child to die from medical neglect, you do not go to jail. So there was a website that was exposing faith healing deaths in faith healing deaths, and I came across this woman named Carol Balizet, Now, Carol Balizet, this is her picture here.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. She started out as a registered nurse, and she didn't just like stay as a lowly nurse. She actually like moved up the hierarchy and stuff like that. So she had an extensive career in medicine. But then one day, I don't know what happened to her. She turned around and she declared that medicine was witchcraft and that doctors were sorcerers and that medicine was paganism and things like that, especially cesarean sections with taking the baby out. So she got obsessed with childbirth and she started a home childbirthing movement. And she basically, her thing was that you should have children at home without the physician without the supervision, of a doctor or a hospital, and that if you notice something going wrong with the birth, it's actually just the devil messing with you, and you should start to try to pray away birth complications that you see going on, even if it's very visibly obvious that there's something very terribly wrong. You should
Mm-hmm.
not call the doctor and instead pray. Now, women and children have died from her teachings. Also, her basic general decree against medicine has led to the death of children, which I'll talk to you about. She actually got away with killing a baby because she was with her followers, and one of the followers' child got stung, young child, like probably under the age of 2 or 3, got stung by almost 300 bees. And she said, "Don't bring it to the hospital," and the child died. And they got away with it on a mix of freedom of religion, but also the fact that the hospital may not have been able to save the infant's life anyway.
Mm-hmm.
There was a cult that surrounded that took her book, Born in Zion, which teaches about these home births, the Attleboro cult, who starved 2 children to death or medically neglected 2 children to death. So my thing. So here's her famous book, Born in Zion. The name of this blog is carolbalizetcult.blogspot.com. carolbalizetcult.blogspot.com. Balizet is Balizet. Her books are rare and expensive. I'm trying to buy them. So if you donate to me, I will buy them and I will start a collection. I've also have a collection of writings about her on here. But Born in Zion is her most famous one, where she basically exposes medicine as witchcraft and tells people to have children at home. She also gets a lot into demonology and saying, you ought to remove demons from the home, and childbirthing complications are actually the result of poor spiritual health. She did write some she wrote some fiction, The Face of the Enemy, The Last 7 Years, Plague, Healing Remedies, Healing in Zion. My point about this woman is that she sold, they estimated that out there, this book of this Born in Zion book, this Medicine is Witchcraft, Have Your Children at Home Without Doctors book, that there's about 400,000 copies out there, either of the book itself or of photocopies of the book. And she is still, well, let me put something to you, Claire. This woman, she is still popular in Christian home birthing movements, and this woman probably has more followers than either you or me combined. The point is that some of these people, look, they're able to get people to do absolutely ridiculous things. And is that people are so stupid they'll do it, or do these people actually have some kind of like power of persuasion?
Well, it made me think of older mothers. There was a time when they could just have a home birth, and that was what they'd have to do. They'd actually want their thing. I've been through it a few times or whatever. But I think deep down that the desire to have a home birth was so that if the baby was defective, they could get rid of it discreetly. with the collusion of the midwife. I think that was really the reason. So they have control, because if you have it in the hospital, some busybody nurse is going to do her best to keep it alive when it's obviously defective, and then you have to fuss around with it. You know, this is just a theory. But I think that might be the reason why older mothers prefer home births when they have the option.
Well, I don't know if they prefer it now. I think most women do go to a hospital when they're pregnant, no matter what their age is. I think home birth is not that popular. But it's more popular amongst these religious, superstitious Christians who are, she took it a step further because they already believe in she comes out of the Pentecostal word of faith movement in that name it and claim it, just believe God is going to help you and it's going to happen. And also don't rely on man, rely on God. So if you're relying on God to protect you during your birth, you're closer to God than if you're putting your life in man's hands at the hospital.
Yeah, I think this whole thing about the cult of Moloch and everything, it was just, parents saying, well, we don't want that many babies, we're going to get rid of them and say, they mean so much to me, to us, and we're sacrificing our children because we love Moloch so much. Actually, that they regarded their baby as an unwanted byproduct of sex. Which is, basically what abortion is. I mean, abortion by unmarried women. Because I think, even happily married couples don't want to have a baby every time they have sex.
No, they don't. They don't want to have a baby every time that they have sex.
And I was wondering why you mentioned this Carol Balizet woman, because you were saying, she's obviously so harmful to children, but then Jehovah's Witnesses don't allow their children to have blood transfusions, do they?
Yeah, no, and I'm against that too. I'm against any kind of form of medical neglect. I brought her up for two reasons. The same reason that I bring up Christian Science, or for three reasons. Well, the first reason is okay, freedom of religion. How far do we allow freedom of religion? Do we allow to the point that people are allowed to kill children based on freedom of religion? I don't even think that. Okay, she got away on a technicality in that the baby was stung by 300 bees and she didn't bring it to the hospital, and the technicality was, well, we don't know if the hospital would have been able to save the baby.
Yes, even if it had been brought to hospital, it might not have been saved.
But still, it's an emergency. They could have. It's still an emergency situation. Your child stung by 300 bees is a medical emergency. It's not. And okay, well, we don't know if the hospital could have saved the baby, but maybe they could have.
Yeah, but all these issues are clouded by the fact that child euthanasia is legal now, and you were talking earlier in this stream about why you think suicide should be legal, or even encouraged for certain people. So you are also one of those people who have muddied the waters.
I haven't muddied the waters because abortion is different.
That's a technicality.
No,
that's why we have partial
abortion.
birth abortion.
Okay.
Right? You crush the baby's head while it's still in the mother's body, and then you suck out the rest of the, you call it a fetus, but it's recognizably a baby. It's also a horrible procedure, but that's because you can only call it an abortion if you kill the baby before it's born. And, after it's been born alive, it's infanticide, which is a form of homicide.
And
some people might say, if abortion is allowed, why not infanticide?
Most people would separate abortion from medical neglect in that the point of the abortion is to quickly kill the child, right? And so, and hopefully you're killing it before it has any sensory organs, before it has a brain, before it has a heart, before it has anything that it could even notice that it's being killed. You know, you're hoping to get away with it. So, um, medical neglect, the child is already born and is conscious and sentient and has lived outside the womb and understands pain and things like that, and you've allowed the child to die slowly from a horrible disease or from a horrible injury. Those are two separate things, I think.
But do you know what the procedure is now? If you're a parent who has had a child and it's defective, and you're saying, I'm not going to take it, I'm not going to bring it home from the hospital, and the hospital has to deal with it. And do you know what they do? They basically don't feed it. They keep it comfortable, they clean it, but they don't feed it. And it shrinks every day. I mean, this is one of the things that the nurses having to, care for this sort of death pathway infant has to do. They keep it comfortable. They're not going to be the one to smother it with a pillow, which I guess would have been done by this midwife who is in charge of a home birth. I'm just old enough to remember, reading articles about how older mothers prefer home births, and what the mother would do is what the midwife would do is have a word with a mother, a discreet chat, and I think that this discreet chat would consist of asking the mother how she would feel if she had a deformed baby, or it's like what kind of disability are you going to put up with? Any kind or none or whatever, and I'll know what to do, So it's just, it didn't survive. So it's a kind of unacknowledged, thing, like, well, actually I smothered the baby, thinks a midwife, but I'm not going to tell you I did it because I don't want to upset you. It's been, terrible for you to have a defective baby, and I'm just going to say it didn't survive because of its deformity, but actually I smothered it. That was how it must have worked in the olden days. Or, go back to the time of the ancient Greeks. I mean, it's like, the baby is defective. We're going to sort of take it to the place in, somewhere outside the city where we put all the unwanted babies, and maybe somebody who wants a baby can pick it up. And this is what happened to a lot of, it happened to Paris, because basically whose mother was the king and queen of Troy, and he was supposed to be born under an unlucky star, and Priam and Hecuba were told to get rid of him, and they did, but he was found by a shepherd who brought him up, and he became a handsome man, and who found his royal parents, and who was accepted, and he still ended up destroying Troy, because he eloped with Helen, who was the wife of Menelaus, King Menelaus of Sparta. And so in the end, Troy was destroyed by the Greeks. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that they had a procedure, these ancient Greeks, to get rid of unwanted babies, and it was to put them somewhere, and if it was unlucky, a wild dog would eat it, or if it was lucky, a shepherd and his wife would bring it up to adulthood, and that sort of idea.
Nom Nom says Carol Balizet is his grandmother. Interestingly enough, if you go on Carol Balizet cult.blogspot.com, at the bottom you'll see an article by her granddaughter, who is now an abortion activist, who was raised in the cult and was a Zion birth, born at home, and attended like 100 home births. The thing about Carol Balizet is that she did attend lots of home births. She was very popular. It said that hundreds of women she helped. Her granddaughter.
And she was a nurse, right?
Yeah, she was a nurse. But she said medicine was witchcraft and paganism and all this other kind of stuff.
But maybe at the back of people's mind, it's like, well, I own my baby, and therefore its life is mine to do as I wish because I own it. I can sell it, I can destroy it, I can, I mean these are the rights of ownership.
Well, right, but that's where, and this is really getting me into children's rights now, because I also believe that children have the right to their own spirituality, which happened to me. So when I was 13, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, but when I was 13, I decided for myself personally, I wanted to be into witchcraft. And this was like made a big, huge deal and a problem, and I was punished for it over and over. And I think that children have the right. I think a child has the right to say, you know what, I don't agree with my mother's church. I think what they're preaching is evil. It's hurting me, and I don't want to be there. And I think that children have that right. But also, I do think that children have the right to like medical attention, even if the parents don't believe in it for themselves. Um, especially to the point if the child's life is in danger, then definitely, they have the right to medical attention. I don't think you have the right to medically neglect your child to the point that it dies.
But I suppose, that there's always been, discreet infanticide, I suppose, because we know that the Romans had this procedure where, uh, I think it's after a month, after the infant is born, the mother would present the infant to the father, and the father can say, well, I'll keep it, or, get rid of it, whatever. And this was, one of the rights of a father, of a Roman father. So,
Yes,
I
we
mean,
don't
there
live
is this
like that
question of who
anymore.
owns the child. And while we're on the subject about, who owns whoever, you could say that the criminalization of conversion therapy could be interpreted as gay people saying to straight parents that they are the breeders of the next generation of gay and transgender people. Because the law now says in America that they're not allowed to even argue with their children if their child decides that it is gay or transgender.
No, you
And if you
shouldn't be
do
able
that,
to.
the child could be taken into care and you would be deprived of your child.
Good, and you should be fined and sent to jail as well.
Well, obviously, not everybody agrees. Maybe, I mean, if you were ever a parent, you might think, feel a bit more possessive about you having the right to bring up your child in according to your beliefs.
No, but I'm a gay man. I don't have anything weird, bizarre, or harmful to teach my child that I need protected from the
Well,
state.
some people might say you're a sex offender, therefore everything you do must be weird, and you shouldn't even be allowed to have reproductive
No,
rights.
excuse me. Yeah, I know. There's the people in this chat, all your straight followers would rather children die in Christian Science than gay men have kids. Like, that's okay.
Is that true, Chad?
No,
Can you say
heterosexuals
what?
come together and say it's okay for us to medically neglect our children until they die, but gay men can't have kids. You're perverts. Fuck you.
Well, you can see it's ownership of a child is well, I mean, should we allow parents to own their children until, I mean, what is the point of the age of majority? I think it's because obviously children don't always agree with their parents, so but as they live under the roof of their parents, they should submit to their parental preferences, and only when they are independent and capable of living outside their family home independently, they can believe what they like. But as they live on as they are supported by their parents, they should at least pretend to agree with their parents.
No, that's not. No, I should not have been. I should not have been forced to attend Jehovah's Witnesses meetings when it was against my conviction, and I should have been allowed to practice witchcraft when that was my conviction. I don't think that. I think that I would fight very strongly for children's spiritual rights because it's something that we don't give them. I mean, we're just told that you have to agree with your parents' religion, and if you think that the religion is abusing you and harming you, you have to go anyway. And my religion very much abused me, very much harmed me, horrible things were done to me there. And
Well, what harm did they do to you?
they separated me from the rest of the children, told me I was demon possessed, and no one was allowed to play with me.
Oh, how long did that last?
Until, as long as I was defiant and practicing witchcraft.
And how did you practice witchcraft?
I just studied it and, like, you know, followed the rituals and stuff.
What were the rituals that you
Oh,
followed?
I can't remember. It was just incantations and shit.
Well, I mean, you could have done it in secret.
Well, but I didn't want to do it in secret. I wanted to be me. I wanted to be myself. I'm not going to do shit in secret.
I'm sure your parents were very upset.
My mother was. My father didn't give a shit, but my mother was, and she was a bitch about it. And she
Well, I suppose she took her religious beliefs seriously.
All Jehovah's Witnesses do is complain about how they're persecuted, but they persecute their own children when they don't select the proper religion, so fuck them. That's very heterosexual. Jehovah's Witnesses is a very heterosexual religion. You know, just lies and injustice and playing, being deceptive, and that you're constantly playing the victim. Like, Jehovah's Witnesses always like to pretend that they don't interfere in politics, but they're against the draft. They stop saluting the flag. They make people less patriotic and less nationalistic. So you are affecting politics. You are affecting society. Don't act like you're just like this innocuous people. You're making people lose faith in the government. So that's why they're banned in a lot of places, because they make you stop aligning yourself with the government, right? You're not allowed to pledge allegiance to the government, and you're not allowed to fight wars for the government, and you're not allowed to become judges or police officers or civil servants. Or maybe you could become a civil servant, but you can't become a judge or a politician or a police officer or anything like that.
But, Vincent, supposing you were a father, can you put yourself in this hypothetical situation?
Yes, I can.
So what if your 13-year-old kid said, I want to be a Jehovah's Witness?
Would they? Do I think that they? Well, okay.
You'd freak out.
Yeah, I'd be very disgusted.
And then you say, can you drive me to church, or my whatever it is you call it, your temple, is it? You call it a temple or something?
Kingdom Hall.
Kingdom Hall.
No, he would have to find his own way there. I mean, he could read the books if he wanted and stuff like that. I mean, I couldn't stop him. I mean, I think that the court should be able to order me not to be able to stop him from being a Jehovah's Witness if he wants to be. I don't think I have the right to stop him. Doesn't mean I have to support him.
Right. But, I mean, obviously you okay, you would want to argue with him, but apparently, according to the laws banning conversion therapy, you're not even allowed to do that.
Conversion therapy?
Did I mention, what was his name? Arthur Goldberg to you? Did you ever read the reports about him losing the case in the New Jersey State Court?
Yes, he's the one that's all wrapped up with Milo. Yes, that he was a gay converter and a Noahide Jew. And
Well, he had an only son who was gay, and then he met another Jew, a Jewish mother whose only son was also gay, and they thought, we can't allow this to happen, and we can't send him to these Christian conversion therapy centers because they're Christian. And then they started a whole bunch of Jewish conversion centers, conversion therapy centers, and
Arthur Goldberg is a fucking lying fuddy-duddy. He's one of these. Oh no, the Christianity is Noahide compliant. No, it's fucking not, you bastard.
Did he say that?
Yes,
what a liar!
He says that Noahide law is the foundation of Christianity.
No.
Yes, he did, because he wants to be all in with the Catholic websites that like him, so he lies.
Right. Well, I guess he deserved what he got then. I mean, if he can't even, be true to the religious principles that he was hoping to rely on.
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah. Well, I was feeling kind of sympathetic towards him. But yeah, I mean, if he lied about his own principles, just, you know, it, it, it's annoying. It's so annoying for me that these Jews can't actually see what the problem is. Because they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, obviously they're supposed to be, if they were ever chosen for any purpose that is useful to humanity, they're supposed to prevent idolatry or discourage it or say something against it. And they're too scared. They're still too scared. Even in America, where they enjoy their First Amendment rights, they still won't say what is necessary for them to say.
Nobody's going to say what's necessary for them to say because they're all cowards and they don't really believe what they believe in because they know it's illogical and irrational bullshit. There's a reason why people are hesitant to talk about spiritual things like at a mass public meeting when it's the spirituality is not the topic, because they know that this is like nonsense. It's like it would be like me bringing up hold on.
Look, I know. I mean, these are what I would call, sleeping dogs, right? They don't want to wake it in case, all kinds of things start getting mentioned. Because and they go back centuries, right? Because, right, I'd say it goes back to the foundation of Christianity, and you have to ask Christians like, well, do you or don't you accept the Ten Commandments, and do you or don't you accept that the Ten Commandments forbid idolatry and blasphemy? And what about the story about Jesus being crucified for blasphemy, and you've been worshipping him for 2,000 years? What is all this about? And nobody will ask these Christians what it all means. And that, I think, is fundamentally the problem, because once you get over this massive roadblock, to people just, if you believe in God, you think, well, obviously God is punishing us because we've been idolaters and blasphemers for 2,000 years, right? And then the Jews can, oh yes, we were cursed because we never told these Christians that they were idolaters and blasphemers, and ditto the Muslims. They haven't been doing that either. They've just been letting sleeping dogs lie for 2,000 years. Or 1,400 years in the case of Muslims. And I'm saying that is a problem, and I've just stated it in less than a minute. Well, I'm sure everybody will be, looking the other way and pretending not to understand, but at least you do.
I understand in that. Okay, I understand it from this perspective. Look, if you want a conservative, monotheistic, non-homosexual order, you need to follow the rules of the Noahide laws and no idolatry on top of that. Christians do not follow that, so they will never have that long term. The only reason that they did have that for a while is because they were acting more like they were living in the Old Testament than the New Testament for the first 1,000 years of their history, or whatever it was, first 1,500 years of their history. If you're not going to get a monotheistic, non-idolatrous, non-blasphemous, non-homosexual society, if you don't make those the rules. They have to be the rules.
Yeah, and they can't even bring themselves to say that because they're so afraid of the liberals. I mean, they can't even be honest with themselves in their own groups, in their, special estuary protocol, groups. And it's like, well, if you really want to enforce Christianity again in the way your ancestors did, this is what they did to enforce it. They burnt heretics at the stake, or they treated the wrong kind of Christian with ferocious
Yes, and that's
penalties,
what you have to
social
do, but
penalties.
it's really not part of the religion to do that, so they're never going to be able to, and that's why I'm saying they're going to go to the Noahide laws, because it's like, it's just, you think you're going to go to Islam, but I think it's harder to go to Islam than it is to go to the Noahide laws, especially for Westerners, because they can say, then they can say, oh, at least we didn't, at least they can say Islam didn't win, okay? They lost, but Islam didn't win, and they can get like a ha 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 on the Muslims if they go Noahide.
Yeah, but then they will have to suffer penalties that are more severe because the seven no-hide laws apparently carry a death penalty. Or they're not sure. It doesn't really say, and most rabbis don't study the no-hide laws because it's like, well, who cares about the Gentiles? I
That's
want to
changing, Claire.
minister to
Claire, you
Jews.
can't. Claire, you keep taking a trend that has just started that is growing exponentially, and then you keep saying, "Well, it's not. It's growing exponentially." When it's not fair to take a small trend that is like growing and growing and growing and growing, and then be like, "Oh, nothing's happening." You know what I mean? Of course, something's happening.
Well, okay, I'm saying the Muslims are not taking them seriously because they're so retarded that they think we're not even going to acknowledge the no-hide laws at all because we don't like Jews and we don't accept the Talmud. So, yeah, they are stupid. They think just by ignoring the problem it will go away.
No, but it's not. But I'm saying Westerners are going to prefer the no-hide laws because it's a ha-ha to Muslims. They can say, fuck you. All these Christians can get the monotheistic, non-homosexual, non-blasphemous order they want without submitting to Islam. And then they can just say, we did it without you. Thank you. We got the solution. Don't have to bow to the Arab man. Goodbye.
Yeah, but then, I mean, most could say, well, excuse me, but what are you going to do about idolaters and blasphemers? And sodomites and
So then we would
adulterers?
just say, excuse me, are you an idolater, blasphemer, or homosexual? What do you care?
We just want to point out that it's not the death penalty under Islam. Like I would say if
I
I'm
know.
Muslim.
Well, then the Noahites are going to say, do you want to get rid of this problem or not? Obviously, Islam can't get rid of it because it doesn't. Islam does not take their values to their logical conclusions. If you think something is evil, you wipe it out. Obviously, if you want to wipe this out, and I think people do, then go with Noahide. Islam, if you're not sure, if this or that, if you're ambivalent, if you kind of think they should live, if you're going to tolerate what's evil, then choose Islam. If you're not going to tolerate what's evil, if you want the pure, real McCoy, downright monotheism, forever, no alternatives, then choose Noahide.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if the debate was on the subject, but it's about, I don't know. They're not even arguing theology about it. They're not even using theology to try to resolve the Hamas-Israel war. That's how hypocritical they are. Because I think if they really did believe in God, the first thing they would be, well, how would God decide? The way all these retarded Christians say, what would Jesus do? In whatever situation that they
Yeah, what would Jesus do?
yeah, and they're not even, oh, well, what would God do with it, So it's just so infuriating. And the thing is, it's so easy to expose. It's like, right, why aren't any of you even talking about this? And the Muslims are so backward, and the Jews are just not going to say anything. And
The
I thought,
Jews are saying, look, I have more faith in Orthodox Jewry spreading the Noahide laws than I do in Muslims actually coming into the West and saying, excuse me, Jesus, the Trinity is idolatry, and like really telling Christians off, like really I'm not talking about like hi everyone, we're brothers and sisters and we all love and we love Jesus too. Like I'm talking about like, no, that's idolatry. You can't be practicing the Trinity. You're wrong.
Well, yes, because I mean, I recently discovered. Have we discussed the event at the Mubahala?
No.
Well, basically, well, it's on. There is a Wikipedia entry about how in the year 632, all those years ago, Muhammad tried to reason with the Christians and failed. So basically, Muslims have this verse in the Quran, chapter 18, verse 4, that says, admonish those who claim that God has begotten a son. And basically, they haven't done it since 632.
No, they haven't. And they don't want to. That's why look, people do what they want to do. This is like, the thing is, well, not okay, not in every case people don't always do what they want to do. Sometimes they're coerced. So not in every case, and usually these sayings don't work all the time. But generally, do people do what they want to do? Yes, especially when they're not being forced. Muslims are not being forced not to say this, and I don't even think it has much to do with being scared, because Muslims say and do things that make people scared in other ways, but they are scared to come out and say the Trinity is idolatry. I don't know why. Like, but they're doing what they want to do. They don't want to do it. That's why they're not doing it, because they don't want to.
Yeah, or they don't see the point, or there is no leadership because somebody has to decide to do it. And I suppose tactically, people like Daniel Haqiqatjou, who's always debating with atheists, is saying, I'm just going to knock the crap out of atheists and not go anywhere near Christianity, because I want to form an alliance with these conservative Christians who are more likely to, so basically they're being distracted by, I guess, their desire to hate Jews, because Muslims think, oh, I have to hate Jews, and therefore I have to work with the Christians, and it's these practical considerations for Jews, because I mean, if you ask a rabbi, then they'll admit that in terms of belief and theory, Jews are closer to Muslims, but they accept the protection of Christians, and that I think is a problem. It's basically Jews and Muslims being unprincipled, and they are being punished for it.
I'm just showing on the screen her different books, Carol Balizet's books. I'm not interrupting you or getting off subject. I'm just putting it. It's like an infomercial about my new blog, Carol Balizet Cult.blogspot.com. So we've been talking about her, but yeah.
Did you want to read? Do you have extracts from her book that you can read for us?
I don't have, no, I actually, so guys, I have a link where you can donate to me. I want to buy her books. They're expensive, and I will do reviews on them if you help me get them. So here, there's Born in Zion. This is her most famous book. This is the book that teaches that medicine is witchcraft, and how to have your child at home, and how birth complications are caused by demons and by improper thinking, and to ignore clear warning signs of a dangerous birth, and not to call the hospital. You're being tricked by Satan, blah, 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 blah. That's called Born in Zion. That is her most famous book, and it's $60, and it is here on Amazon. You could find it probably other places too. Then under that, okay, I'll go do her nonfiction first that I really want to get. Her Healing in Zion, God's Prescription for Healing by Carol Balizet. It's $42. That's nonfiction. And then she has another one piece of nonfiction that I want to get, which is Egypt or Zion, Exposing the Devil's Counterfeit. That's $121. That's
Whoa.
like, yeah, I really want to get this one. It's expensive. But you can find the links there, and you can donate to me, or you can buy the book and send it to me. Just email me. And but here are her most famous nonfiction. She was also a apocalyptic fiction writer. I think her famous one is The 7 Last Years, $20. She also wrote The Face of the Enemy, A Scientific Experiment Gone Wildly Wrong, A Battle of Good and Evil. The Face of the Enemy, that's only $6, but I'm really broke, so. And then Plague, which is $6.50. This is about, actually, it's about HIV. People who have HIV are in a society that is broken down as people with AIDS virus are forcibly quarantined. Olivia Tyler is drafted to service as a nurse while her husband Aaron undertakes a dangerous journey to Florida to search for their kidnapped children.
Right. Um, is there a biography or autobiography of hers?
There is, if you go to the carolbalizet.blogspot.com, just go down past the books and go to writings about Carol Balizet. I have things about her that have been written about her, by her granddaughter who criticizes her, an article on her and her book Born in Zion, the book on the cult that followed her, the Attleboro cult, where children died, the mother in Australia who died using Balizet's creations or following teachings. There was a review of Carol Balizet's The Last 7 Years. That was her most famous fiction book.
Oh, she wrote fiction as well.
She wrote fiction as well, yeah, she did. The Cult Education Institute warned against Carol Balizet's teachings. There was a Slate magazine article on Carol Balizet. And the Attleboro cult that adopted Carol Balizet's teachings also were an offshoot of Herbert Armstrongism, World Church of God, or what is it called? Worldwide Church of God. So I don't know if you know anything about Herbert Armstrong, but if you go to noahidepyramidology.blogspot.com, you will learn about some of Armstrong. Look up Armstrongism. Herbert Armstrong mixed Seventh-day Adventist, Mormon, and Jehovah's Witness into a pyramidology British Israelist cult. And this Attleboro sect came out of that and adopted her teachings, further adopted and incorporated Carol Balizet's teachings. Why Stephen J. James said, "Don't waste your money on this trash." Excuse me, this is like very important to me. These types of things, people don't understand. Like, first of all, people have died from this, and this woman has like 400,000 followers, or at least has 400,000 copies of her works out there. This does not connect to anything else. It doesn't connect to Freemasonry. It doesn't connect to Judaism. It doesn't connect to Mormonism or Jehovah's Witness or anything else, or pyramidology. It doesn't seem to connect to anything like that. This is its kind of own standalone. That's why she's her own blog. But I think that she's a fascinating character. And I'm fascinated by people who are able to get people to believe absurd things and do absurd things with their life.
Would it be fun for you to read what her granddaughter said about her?
Yes.
Would you like to read it?
I would. I'm going to read it now. Okay. Granddaughter of Carol Balizet criticizes her grandmother's anti-medicine cult, child deaths. Carol Balizet got a hip replacement. Okay. So here's her granddaughter, who is andytheatheist.blogspot.com. Thursday, September 17th, 2009. I loathe lukewarm fence-sitting whiners. Since discovering that my grandmother was a cult leader in a late-night Google session just over a year ago, I've been emailing site owners on any home birth or private blog that promotes her book, asking them to stop. A few people did so immediately. Several were impossible to contact. Some of these are early GeoCities pages with an old AOL email address, but they are still out there being all toxic on the internet, like the KKK site or the godhatesfags.com. But some women just don't want to offend anyone. Here's the email I sent out. I am the granddaughter of Carol Balizet, author of two of the books you recommend on your redacted site.
I wanted to alert you that several people have died as a result of following her extremist teachings, some during childbirth and some later on. The reliance on faith she recommends in her books is nonsensical, requiring birth attendants and laboring mothers to ignore physical symptoms of birth complications and instead merely pray and take no steps to protect the life of the mother or the child. Carol Balizet was a hypocrite in the end, getting a hip replacement surgery after telling her followers for years to abstain from all medical care. She has been classified as a cult leader by multiple cult experts. I provided a set of links at the end of this email with further information about Carol, her former ministry, and just a few of the deaths that have resulted from her teachings. I've written to you previously to ask you to please remove your endorsement of her teachings. I am begging you, please remove your books from your list of recommendations. Born in Zion, in particular, led to the death of two young boys, one who died from medical ignorance immediately after his birth, and one who was slowly starved to death in a group which came to be known as the Attleboro sect. If you have further questions or concerns, I would be happy to answer them. Please feel free to contact me. My primary concern is with halting her message wherever I find it. I understand and respect a woman's desire to have her child in whichever way seems safest and most comfortable to her, but the advice given in Born in Zion is considered heretical by the majority of Christians, is medically dangerous, and has proven to be deadly. Please, please, please take her name down. Don't recommend these books any longer, or else the blood of future children is on your hands too. With regards, Angela Jackson. Then you can see, ooh, I have to go, ooh. Oh, she has more articles here I never went through. I gotta go through this, actually. If you would like more resources beyond these, include several books. If you would like more resources beyond these, including the several books on child death, child abuse, and heretical teachings that she appears in, I would be more than happy to provide them. I'll give her tremendous credit for I'll give her tremendous credit for replying within the hour. I don't think I give her reply any credit though. Thanks for contacting me with your concerns. Yes, you wrote to me previously and I answered you at some length. I told you that I'd consider modifying the statement and I will put in the process of thinking through exactly how to word it. Your request was pushed to the back burner. I am a very busy homeschooling mother of 8 who is heavily involved with our church, my children's ballet company, and a national writers group. So like she's a Christian woman with 8 kids that homeschools them. So she's, obviously, usually, not always, but usually a backward person. It isn't that I have no regard for what you've told me, but I loathe knee-jerk or hysterical reactions of any sort, either for or against a cause. I'll definitely read these links you've provided and think some more on the subject. Maybe it's different for you. Maybe it's different if you haven't read every story and followed it all the way from tragic death announcements back through the history of the family or where things went wrong, following the story through the legal battle and wondering who I hated the most in all this gig for teaching dangerous nonsense, or the fools who unquestionably believed her. Worst run-on sentence ever. Sorry. I just can't put this on the back burner myself. What's more, I don't see how she can think that there could be some sort of fence-sitting middle ground between teaching that killing people and not teachings that kill people. Fallacy of middle ground, law of non-contradiction. I don't know. I'm tired and annoyed. Certainly, I reject the notion of an absolute black and white world, but some things are binary. Either you believe in gods or you're an atheist. Sorry, whiners. There's no I neither believe nor disbelieve. As soon as you don't believe, you're one of us. Mwahaha. Either Hitler was a monster or you're screwed in the head. Either Obama was born in the U.S. or he wasn't. None of this. Gee, there are still questions, you lying scum GOP congressmen. Obama was born here. It's sad I have to take a whole other parenthetical just to clearly state something that every retarded second grader should know. Sorry if I offended my retarded second grade readers, but kudos to you for exploring your atheist side at such a young age. Ahem. Sometimes I avoid the most difficult topics with lots of asides of stupid jokes. Something about humor being a defense mechanism. I don't know. I was really bad at counseling as a kid. Mostly I just played with cool colored water toys that every school guidance counselor seems to have. I finally asked one counselor if they all ordered from the same catalog. She said yes. My mother told me earlier today she had to stop and just reflect after she wrote the sentence. Most of the deaths my mother caused were due to this book, which is actually the mildest, but which had the widest distribution. I don't know how many of my readers out there can non-fictionally start a sentence with most of the deaths my grandmother caused or most of the children my grandmother killed. It's rather odd that I can. You might think I'd be used to it by now, but I'm not sure that I ever will be. But would it be like what would it be like to be Hitler's child and to live on long enough to hate everything he stood for? I can imagine it at least. I compared Gig, who must be the grandmother, to Hitler in my own head for the first time in fifth grade, long before I had ever heard of Goodwin's Law. Heck, I wasn't even thinking of it in terms of death. I'm not sure any children had died yet at that point. I just remember sitting in the back of the classroom during social studies, watching a black and white video of short, stiff man talking to a crowd of thousands. I remember my teacher saying the word charisma at some point and thinking, oh, that's what it's called. How the hell can you be wishy-washy on Hitler? My grandmother, both are monsters, but one is still alive. I won't be sorry when she goes, and yet I'm sure I'll cry. How can you love someone that you know has killed so many? She did die recently. There two Carol Balizets died recently. Someone in the chat, Effluent, or somebody said that she died in 2020. I think that's the wrong Carol Balizet. Um, I have. Hold on. I was trying to think what else I have. Has your interest been piqued by her or no?
Well, I was thinking maybe you should get in contact with this Angela Jackson.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I will. I'm gonna send it to her. I will. Yeah, maybe I can interview her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Okay, that's a good idea. I'm gonna contact her because now I've done all this work, but also on the site. So I have an article on Carol Balizet. Let's see how long these are. Let me see how long this is. This isn't that long. We have time to keep going. You have to go or no?
Well, yeah, I can stay.
Okay, so we can do. So we'll just do a walkthrough of the site then. Hold on. All right, table of contents. That's her. That's Carol Balizet. Um, okay, guys, I'm trying to buy all her books, and I want to review them. I can't post them because they're copywritten and not in the public domain, but I can write reviews of them and everything like that. So these right here are her books and the prices and where you can buy them and how much they cost. And you can contact me and I'll give you my address and you can mail them to me if you just want to buy the book directly. But then under that are writings about Carol Balizet. So we just went through the granddaughter of Carol Balizet. So let's go article on Carol Balizet and Born in Zion. Carol Balizet, a former emergency room nurse, advocates natural home births, claiming only prayer is needed to bring life into the world. She heads Home in Zion Ministries. Her book, Born in Zion, heavily influenced the Attleboro cult, the religious group who currently under investigation for the death of two of its children. According to former members, Dennis Minigu, the sect's beliefs are rooted in denouncing 7 systems of mainstream society, including education, government, banking, religion, medicine, science, and entertainment. They were heavily influenced by the book Born in Zion by Carol Balizet, who heads a Florida ministry. Balizet, a former emergency room nurse, advocates natural home births, claiming that only prayer is needed to bring life into the world. The book had a profound effect on the group, Mingo says. Every week they made little changes and became more and more radical. They were basically pulling themselves out of society, and I just couldn't live that way. Balizet's website, Home Zion Ministries, says, after 30 years experience in the field of surgical assistant, labor, delivery room nurse, emergency room supervisor, ICU, CCU specialist, and instructor and house supervisor, God led Carol out of the medical system. See, this woman was not a nobody nurse. Now, over a 19-year period, Carol has been involved in more than 800 Zion births, which are births with no input, assistance, or backup from the medical system. She currently speaks to various Christian groups, testifying about her experience in ministries to groups involved in Zion births. Now, I mean, she wasn't a nobody in the Christian community. I mean, 400,000 photocopies made of your book is something. As a result of these experiences, Carol shares new insights about God's perfect plan for natural childbirth. She also speaks on divine healing. Ms. Balizet teachings are not based on sound principles of Bible interpretation. They are both heretical and dangerous. Born in Zion is a book by a Christian child minister, Carol Balizet, who ministers to women during their home births. Balizet calls herself a midwife as well as a childbirth minister. There's hardly a page in Born in Zion which does not strike me and many other Christian home birth advocates as blasphemous, heretical, or ludicrous in one way or another. Therefore, I will just hit on the high spots. The content of the book, which I found most offensive and patently false from an Orthodox Christian perspective. Name it and claim it. The Bible teacher who seems to have most influenced Balizet's theology is Kenneth Copeland. If you take Copeland's heretical word of faith, name it and claim it teachings and apply them to childbirth, you have Balizet's thinking in a nutshell. Like Copeland, she teaches that our words have inherent spiritual power. Not only everything in heaven and on earth, but even God himself is a slave to our word. So basically, I can make anything what I want it to be with my word. And so if I see a difficult childbirth, I can fix it with my word. Demons everywhere. Since Satan is so much more powerful than God in Balizet's theology, it stands to reason that she would be obsessed with demon activity. Balizet sees demons around every corner, demons who have not only the ability by the Christian given right to steal, kill, and destroy. God told me. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of Born in Zion is a subjective revelation, what Balizet calls a word from the Lord, a prophecy, or a rhema. I counted 34 claims in Born in Zion that people heard directly from God. Virtually none of these claims are verified except by another spirit baptized person agreeing with them. However, it is clear in the Bible that all prophets and teachers are to have their messages examined and tested by Scripture. If someone claims to speak for God and his message contradicts the revealed law, work of God, he must be rejected as a false prophet, even if he works miracles. Now that canon of Scripture is closed, God is not giving new special revelation. Reality is what I make it. If it is if it is dangerous to have so-called midwife attending you in childbirth who believes that Satan is controlling your birth unless she takes control, and who believes that any moment God could tell her to walk out on you, it is more dangerous still to have a birth attendant who believes that reality is whatever she decides it is. If Balizet is your child minister and you suffer a complication of childbirth, she will deny it and rebuke Satan, whom she thinks is trying to manipulate her senses into believing that you are having a problem. She will also rebuke the spirit of child death if your baby is born not breathing. She has waited nearly half an hour for a newborn to begin breathing. Since Balizet worships a God who never wants anything unpleasant to happen to Christians, nothing bad does happen to Christians as long as they remain in the spirit realm. Medicine is evil. As if this weren't bad enough, Balizet believes that to receive any medical care whatsoever is a sin. It is yielding to the world system and the arm of flesh. Furthermore, taking any drug for any reason is sorcery according to Balizet. She refers to people who have never ingested drugs of any kind as undefiled and virgins, and incredibly even denounces medicinal wine, which Paul recommended to Timothy. Balizet believes that getting a cesarean section is a partially abominable sin. All women who have had cesareans have the same spirit, the spirit of Caesar, who is one and the same with the strong man, the satanic high prince over the organization and sphere of humanism, because they have rendered their babies unto Caesar rather than to God. In other words, women with cesarean scars are idol worshippers who are demon possessed, and she had 4 cesarean sections. It will be regretted. It will be regrettable if Zion births becomes everyone's idea of Christian midwifery. It isn't Christian and it isn't midwifery. Note, oddly, the article quoted above is part of the unassisted home birth site, which itself advocates home birth without any medical assistance. This site is devoted to promoting wonderful way of birth, that being with no medical assistance. We are Christians and God has blessed us with 8 beautiful children. The last 6 were unassisted home births. Each of them were caught by their daddy. He is the head of our home, and it is only appropriate that he be the first person to touch the child. An unassisted birth is any birth that takes place without the supervision of a medical type professional, for example, doctor, nurse, or midwife. An unassisted birth, UC, can be planned or unplanned. All of our UCs have been planned and well prepared for. Also, the unassisted home birth site is hosted on server operated by a church that promotes the King James only position Nevertheless, the article does a good job pointing out that the manifold errors in Carol Balizet's teachings. My first encounter with the concept of Zion birth came from a Christian midwife email list, which I joined as a fledgling childbirth educator, eager to learn and find support with fellow believers. I was shocked and dismayed to find that many of these women practiced or supported the philosophy of Zion birth based on the book Born in Zion by Carol Balizet. The basic idea behind the concept is that Christians are not to put their faith in anything besides God. Of course, that sounds good to begin with, but in birth practice, this means not seeking medical care even if things don't go well. Now, I am all in favor of natural birth and home birth, but to stand by and watch one's baby die, all in the name of faith, that goes against every fiber in my being. And yet, this is exactly what Carol Balizet and other Zion birth midwives would have you do. It directly violates all the biblical teachings about the sanctity of life, and I am certain it grieves the Lord deeply. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Oh, her home Zion. She had a her website was homeinzion.com. Actually, let's see. Let's go to archive way back. I don't know when she died. She died after the year 2000. She was still alive in 2009 when Andy the Atheist wrote that article. Oh my god, it's up. Oh my god, I'm going to document all this. I'm going to document. Welcome to Home Zion Ministries. Okay. Would you like to order some of our publications? Yes, what are your publications? Oh, there's a biography here of her and everything. I have to, oh wow, I have to document this. What are you thinking? Do you think that this woman's an interesting character?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be for me. I mean, obviously, that there will be charismatic people who are wrong and controversial. I, I guess I don't see how it can help secular Quranism.
Okay. Do you think? Okay, she's not a nobody. Okay, this is my point about her. He's advocating something really fucked up. But she has a following that is not insignificant. That how did a woman like this get a significant following and I can't?
Well, charisma, that people trust her as a woman and a nurse, and she probably has a very plausible manner, and well, she's dead now, so I don't think it can continue without her.
It has continued without her. Her book is still in Home Birth Ministries.
Right. Okay. And you're trying to get hold of it. What's the title of it?
Born in Zion.
Born in Zion. Why does she say Zion?
Like, I guess born in outside the system, outside the seven-pronged system.
Outside the state institution of a maternity hospital. Is that what she meant? Outside the control of the government?
Yeah, well, medicine is one of the seven arms of the system that, medicine, entertainment, science, politics, you have to just get out of that system.
Right, I suppose people who hate the government would be into this sort of thing, and people who maybe want to feel that they're more in control of their children than other people. Yeah, I wonder what kind of people like her sort of thing. Is there a look of cultists?
I don't know, but you see what she looks like. I mean, I look at her eyes. Okay, let's look at her eyes. Okay,
She doesn't look particularly evil. I mean, she looks like a woman that you might trust.
I look into her eyes and I just get scared. Like, how do you go from being a high-ranking nurse to like preaching that it's witchcraft?
Because you think, oh, I'm a nurse, I know what goes on in hospital, and I can tell you a story or two. You don't want to be anywhere near a hospital. You'd like to give birth in your own home, wouldn't you? I know some people who would help you. You like me, don't you? And I guess if you have the right manner and personality, people who already want to agree with you will agree with you. I mean, you basically tell people what they want to hear, and people who join cults are people who are outside society anyway, and who don't like government, and they'll just like the whole package. Yes, how dare the government think it owns our children more than we do, us, the parents? They might think that. And if it's mostly older mothers, I mean, they already have this excuse, don't they? You're back
Hello?
in? Yes,
Hold
you're
on,
back in.
I need to share my screen again. Hold on. There, share it. So, wait, I have to go to the bathroom. But give me 1 second. Oh no, where is it? Here it is. Let me go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Well, I think I've said what I want to say about this cult. Obviously, certain beliefs have a certain appeal to certain groups of people, and I imagine the people who would, well, you can already tell it's going to be a woman who would take an interest in this, the older kind of woman, a woman who doesn't trust her government, and yeah, and you have this organization
Claire, just give me 1
promoting
second.
home births.
Oh, never mind. I can't call my husband. Hold on. Shit.
Why do you want to call your husband?
Well, he's doing poll work now because I can't, but I wanted to get coffee, but I don't know where the key is.
Okay, well, have you more or less finished what you wanted to say about Carol Balizet?
Well, are you tired? You want to go?
Well, I'm just wondering what next.
Oh, well, I'm not totally done, but I mean, we can kind of like drift into something else and come back. And well, let me just finish. Let me just finish. I won't read all these articles, but I will. Yeah. So these are the books, and the Attleboro sect. There's one on the Attleboro sect. So there was these people who followed her, and they incorporated her book, and they, declared no medicine and got all crazy and killed their kids and stuff like that. There's a review of her book, The 7 Last Years. It got a good review. And The 7 Last Years on Amazon got good reviews, and people liked it. Yeah, just if you're going to read anything, read the Slate magazine article on Carol Balizet. It gives you lots of information. And that's all I have right now. Though there's a lot more is coming because I just found Carol Balizet's um, website on archive, and I'm really excited because I'm going to be able to see what else she had and see maybe what kind of publications she had. I don't know if there's any way to get them, but yeah, and I'm also going to contact Angie the Atheist. I'm going to contact Angie the Atheist and see if she will do an interview with me about Carol Balizet because she's become a new fascination of mine. I was really into I started out with May Otis Blackburn, the Blackburn cult, and how she got people to believe in insane things and doing insane things for her. But I'm starting to think that this woman might top her in a way, and that she was even more widespread, more mainstream, and both of them led to people's deaths. But I think Carol Balizet has killed more people. I mean, I was joking around in the groups that I was spreading this around, and I'm like, well, how many mothers and babies have you killed? I was like, this woman's based. So, I mean, if you want, like, do you think she's a based cult leader?
I don't know. I mean, I like to read her books and see how, the tone of it is, and, whether she writes well and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd be interested in you getting her book and reading out. Well, actually, her biography would be good enough, because then her biography would contain extracts from her book.
I
Her
don't know if she
books.
has a biography. I don't know if she has a biography.
Right.
I would write
I
a
mean,
biography.
it sounds like it could be a good, documentary or a movie or a novel.
It does, right? Good. I'm glad that you at least you found some interest in it because usually people. Okay, I will tell you something. This is the most disconnected, not connected blog I have. It's not connected to Freemasonry. It's not connected to Noahide. It's not connected to any cult. It's not connected to anything. It's just her as a standalone woman with her own thing going on, and just my fascination with her. Here, I'll read you just the intro to, well, my introduction to the website. Carol Balizet was a nurse who turned against medicine and declared medicine witchcraft. She then went on to start a home birthing movement where contacting health professionals, even when the birth was extremely complicated and dangerous, was highly discouraged. Women and children have died following her advice. Her general decree against medicine has also led to the death of children. Carol Balizet even saw the medical murder of one child by having her cult followers not bring the child to the hospital when it had been stung by almost 300 bees. Carol and the parents were not charged with murder based on a mix of freedom of religion and the fact that the hospital may not have been able to save the infant's life anyway. Besides her anti-medical writings, Balizet wrote Christian apocalyptic fiction and also on other theology-related themes. The Attleboro cult, The Body, was an official cult that practiced Balizet's teachings from her Born in Zion book. Two of their children died from medical neglect. Amazingly, Carol Balizet does have a following among Christian home birth movement today. Her book, Born in Zion, can be found on Christian home birthing websites even today. This blog is to document her writings and those who have written about her. In the end, she was a hypocrite and got a hip replacement. You may donate to this blog and help me buy her rare books here. And
Okay.
the first one I got to get is Born in Zion, but I really want this one, Zion or Egypt, because it's very rare, and I want to know what's in it, and I'm going to see what other there's like. I just want to centralize everything that there is about her, and I think a documentary would be really good. I mean, it has to start with this. Someone could steal the idea from me. I mean, this would make a good movie, don't you think? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
like she's this evil witch, you know?
Who would you like to play her?
Oh,
Well,
I don't know.
the one who played Misery comes to mind. What's her name? Kathy Burke.
Let's look her. Oh, Kathy Burke.
I think that's the name of the actress who played Misery, Stephen King's Misery, but maybe not.
Here, this woman, where is she? Kathy Burke. Oh, they don't have her picture here? Come on. Not on Wikipedia? This?
Yeah, don't you think she could play the part?
Yes, of course she could. Here, Kathy Burke. Yes, she could. Right here. This could be her. Here.
Yeah, because she played a really sort of kindly nurse, protecting this. Well, the character, I guess, that Stephen King imagined himself to be after he had a car accident or something. And she was nursing him and being so nice, and then he realised, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. Well, here when she's a little bit younger, yes, this could have been her.
And her relationship with her grandchildren, that would be also fun.
Oh yeah, and the daughter. It seems like the daughter turned against her too. From Angie the Atheist. Oh, and Angie the Atheist has been. Ooh, wait. What's the book? Hold on. It was Birth and wait. Hold on. No. Let's go back and find out what the book is called. Because maybe the book is out. I'll buy the book. I'll put that book up too. Okay, let's see. Angie the Atheist.
What's Zion and Egypt about?
That's what I want to know. What Zion in Egypt is about.
Well, obviously, it's a religious reference to Jews leaving Egypt to go into Zion. Zion is a promised land, yes?
Yes. Okay, wait. Birth and Day, Life of a Newborn. Hold on, let me just see something. Let me see if I can get it. There's. Okay, wait. Wait. Demons and Deliverance. Oh, come on. What the fuck? There is a book. There should be. Hold on one second. In 2010, reading an excerpt from my memoir, Birth and Death, Life of a Newborn Cult, but it's not there anymore. Hold on, let's see something. Can you see my screen right now?
Yep. Well, Living the Dream says pseudo-Christian cults are 10 a penny in American history. It's what America was founded on. And of course, the ones that come to mind is the Southern Baptists and the Mormons. And I think this must be something to do with the fact that Americans enjoy the First Amendment and they can create their own religions. But maybe it's not such a good thing. Because when you create a religion and follow it to and suffer ill consequences of that, it means that you could have avoided it by following a proper religion with a proper scripture containing the laws of God. So maybe Americans do themselves a disservice by allowing cult leaders to create their own religion. And this is what you're doing, isn't it, Vincent? You are trying to create your own religion. Or legal system, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe legal system is a better way of putting that. I'm looking. Oh God. Well, she was reading from her memoir, but maybe she didn't, and she never published it. Oh shit. Well, I'm glad that now I have a lot more to look up on. I have more to look up on Carol Balizet now. I have her website that I have to document, and I thought I had kind of scrubbed through everything, but this is newfound information. But yeah, we could get, and then also, what we could add is, okay, do you want to get into, okay, let's get into the Attleboro section before we go running off of this, because in the movie or the documentary, so let me see which is shorter. Give me 1 second. Let me see which is shorter. I'll read the shorter article. Come on. Okay, so there was a cult. Okay, this isn't that. Let's see. This is the information on the Attleboro cult. Well, to make a long story short, there was a cult that sprung up while she was still alive. And they mixed Armstrongism, Herbert Armstrong's theology, with her book Born in Zion, and they rejected all medicine and everything like that. And they had something about moving to Maine as the new promised land. And they starved one boy to death and allowed another boy to die of medical neglect after his birth. There was something wrong. They didn't call the cops. Those parents, the father went to jail for life or whatever, and the other two got away with it. But there's also that aspect to the whole thing is the cult that sprung up around her. There actually was an official like Carol Balizet cult, but even though she had a more general like large cult following, the quiverful birth movement has a lot to do with it, and this is where you learn that Carol Balizet actually had cesarean sections. So yeah, actually, yeah, we'll find a way. So I'll go back and I'm gonna put time into documenting what her website said and things like that.
Okay, well, I'll hear from you when you've got more information about her.
Yes.
Alrighty. I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Happy hunting.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Alright.
Bye.
Bye.